Shall we pray? Dear wise and loving Father, let me first say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for the many and abundant blessings that you have given to us. Thank you for life itself and the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings and for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you as well for the freedoms we share because of your grace and mercy. In Scripture, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, we pray for our mayor, for the various council members, and all gathered in this room. We ask that you would grant them wisdom to govern amid conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and needs of the people of our community, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, a commitment to do what is good and decent and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, and personal peace in their lives and joy in their tasks. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Give them the wisdom to know what will please you as well as benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Alstyne. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing. Tonight our Pledge of Allegiance will be done by our scouting. Alstyne has Troop 44, one of the oldest troops in the state of Texas. Tonight representing them is Les Kane, who is the committee chairman, Tom Brown, who is on the committee, Herb Reed. He is the charter organizing representative, Kirk Johnson, who is the assistant scoutmaster. At this time, I will ask Kyle Johnson, who is an Eagle Scout, to come forward and introduce the scouts as they bring this flag forward. Kyle. I know he's here.
Names of the scouts are Colton Brown, Eagle Scout Nick Kane, Nathan Etheridge, Aaron Etheridge, Caleb Miller, Tyler Durrett, Dawson Fowler, and Jonah Hicks.
Please follow me in prayer. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
About face. Turn your boat. Scout lead.
The first item on the agenda tonight for the Zoning Board of Adjustments is a public hearing. I call this public hearing to order at 6:35. This is to consider a public hearing regarding a request by the owner agent of the property described as Division Van Alstyne Block 3, more commonly known as 631, as 361, West Van Alstyne Parkway, for a variance to the Comprehensive Zoning Regulations, Section 17A4, Height and Area Regulations, Appendix 1, Coverage Regulations. The owner agent is requesting a variance to reduce the percentage of masonry required for the property, which is currently zoned Central Business District. Are there any comments from the audience that you wish to make at this time in regard to this public hearing? Second call. Third and final call. Then I declare this public hearing closed at 6:36. Next is a regular agenda non-consent. Consider and take any action necessary regarding a request by the owner agent of the property described in the Division of Van Alstyne, Block 3. This is at 361 West Van Alstyne Parkway, for a variance to the comprehensive zoning regulations, height and area regulations. The owner agent is requesting the variance to reduce the percentage of masonry required for the property, which is currently zoned Central Business District. We will now take any questions from the council. Councilman Clay, do you have any questions regarding this?
No, thank you.
Councilman Mower? Councilman Jessica?
There was a request for a zone change, is that right?
This is item 5, which is right. Yes. Yes. This request was made by Ronald and Julie Jeffrey.
No.
Councilman Kelly? Councilman Cooper?
No question.
At this time, there are no questions. Are there any motions that you would like to make regarding this from council? We have a motion that it be approved. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Blake. Is there any further discussion from council? All of those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. At this time, we will adjourn from the Zoning Board of Adjustments. Okay, I will take a motion at this time for us to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn from Councilman Jaska, second by Councilman Mower. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. We are adjourned from the Zoning Board of Adjustments at 6:39. Next, I will call to order our regular city council meeting at 6:39. The first item on the agenda is citizens' communication. Do we have some citizens' communication, please? Since all of these are specifically for one item, we will not do it at this time. We will go to item 6. No, we'll go to item 3, conduct a public hearing regarding the 2013 Annual Drinking Water Quality Report.
Mayor will have Steve White address that.
Madam Mayor, Honorable Council, I received communication from EPA, Texas TCEQ today. They will not accept this format any longer, and they asked me to change it and then redistribute it to customers. So I'll have it completed and redistributed back out. We have it in the next council meeting.
Thank you very much. Number 4 is conduct a public hearing regarding a request by the owner agent of the property described as Division Van Alstyne Block 3, more commonly known as 361 West Van Alstyne Parkway, to change the current zoning of commercial district office light retail and neighborhood services to SF, which is single-family residential district. Is there anyone in the audience who has any comments regarding this? Second call. Third and final. This public hearing is closed at 6:42. Next is a public hearing regarding a request by the owner agent of the property described as OTP Van Alstyne Edition, Block 25 North, 64 feet of east, 19.65 feet of 17 point north, 64 feet of 18 point north, 64 feet of west, 20 feet of 19, more commonly known as 173 Off-Field Way, to change the current zoning of Central Business District to PD, which is planned development, to allow for light manufacturing. Are there any comments from the audience at this time regarding this? Second call. Third and final call. I now declare this public hearing closed at 6:44. Regular agenda item. Consider and take any action necessary regarding passage of an ordinance regulating the possession of alcohol beverages in open containers and the consumption of alcohol on all property owned or controlled by the city of Van Alstyne. And on this particular item, the council will find in their packet, there are 3 ordinances, A, B, and C. And I did fill out a form. And the 3 ordinances pertain to, ordinance A is an ordinance that does not provide for alcohol on any city-owned property. Ordinance B does for a one-time event, and it has several restrictions. And ordinance C is the same. Its restrictions are as the other with a permit, but it is not quite as strict as that one. I have several people here who would like to speak regarding this, and we will get to them all. I would like to open this up with a agenda request, which was sent to me earlier. Let's start with Shannon Jackson. Will you please come forward? You have, tonight, we will, since we have a large audience, we will enforce the 3-minute rule. So you have 3 minutes.
They say, asking a preacher to keep the 3 minutes in the car.
You can do it.
First of all, I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear, not just me, but everybody else who's going to speak to this. I just want to tell you not from a minister standpoint, because first of all, I'm convinced drinking itself is not a sin. I'm not going to hear you preach to you. I'm here as a father, here as a husband, and a citizen of this city that I love. Go look at research. Drinking in public areas is bad news. I looked at the Department of Justice numbers this afternoon. On average, of the 5 million people that have been arrested, 37% of them have used alcohol when they committed their crime. The rates of Violent crimes go up with the percentage of alcohol is used. I have concerns for that. I have concerns for the reputation of this city. When the city or representatives of the city or the chamber is offering free alcohol to people, of the kind of people that will come here for that. I want to draw people to Mount Alstyne. Mount Alstyne is a great place to live. It is an awesome place to live. But at the same time, we want a good reputation. And I do believe that with an ordinance that's passed that allows public drinking, we're going to see more pressure put on the police department because they're going to have to respond to those situations. It will put more pressure on public works. It will put more pressure on our fire department. I just really believe, honestly, it's going to be bad news. And from my perspective, what I believe we'll see is you will see less of a family atmosphere at those events. I can tell you as a father and a husband, if I know there are going to be places like that where it's going to be open drinking, I won't take my family. I just won't. Because I'm not going to endanger them in the chance that somebody's had too much to drink. And I don't know how you control it. I don't know how you limit it. I really do believe for our reputation, for the safety of the citizens of this city, it's a bad idea to allow public drinking to be taking place. Not to mention, those people are going to be driving. Those people are going to be driving. And I have major concerns about the safety of our people and our reputation. I think there are other things that we can do that would draw people here that doesn't have to have alcohol in it. There are plenty of things that we can do. Other cities do it. We can do it as well. Just really like to ask you guys to really consider some of those things, and maybe even dig in deeper and look at some of the numbers. They're not hard to find. What the effects of alcohol do when they're consumed, whether privately or publicly, it doesn't matter. It's going to be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good.
Next, we have Gerald Ainsworth.
I have a question on this here. If you can have a party on your own property and have a lot of liquor there for people to see you out drinking it, it's a good idea. Because can we regulate private parties using alcohol? Although it says property owned and controlled by the city of Van Alstyne. We've had examples of alcohol in a bar. I don't like it. I don't think it was right for it to be put out there for people to use like that. I'm against alcohol on private or public owned, controlled city of Van Alstyne.
Thank you. Next, we have Sandy Hill.
My 3 minutes don't start till I get you, right?
Right.
Let's start to the spoke.
When you start talking, your 3 minutes start.
Make sure. Mayor and City Council, most of you I know represent, because you're not just the people who lead our city, but you are my friends. And I think that you really do make decisions that are in the best interest of our community. Well, I've heard a lot of things in the last couple of weeks that I've heard people calling us Mayberry, all kinds of silly stuff. I don't think we're Mayberry. Although I think we have a lot of things that are like Mayberry. Because when you cross the street, people don't run you down or shoot you. They stop and let you pass it. Like, you need to not look before you go. People say hi to you on the sidewalk. The pharmacy knows what you want before you get there. And if you leave it in the middle of the night, the pharmacist will bring it to you. People are nice to one another. If you need something and somebody knows it, guess what? Somebody does it, and sometimes you been here 12 years. But I know a lot of people here that lived here for generation and generation to generation. And when I read that thing in the newspaper, I just thought it was so hysterical that they left off the park. Everything but the park. And Dorothy Fielder Park is a historical spot in our town. The Fielder family has been here for forever. In fact, Jim Fielder still lives up on Highway 5 if you ever want to stop and visit him and find out about any history in this town. Don't ask him. He's even got his great park. It's his Alstyne. I mean, I'm not kidding you. He can tell you anything and everything. And that park in the middle of town, the one that is in Oak Park, the casino, and the park with the horse. By the way, the park was on television last week, if you noticed. Early in the morning, I woke up and there it was right on Channel 4 with the horse. Park. But it's really not the park with the gazebo or the park with the horse. It's Dorothy Fielder Park. James Fielder's daddy, his wife died, he donated that property to our city for a community park. And I can tell you this, everything else seems to be covered in the present ordinance except the park. The city park? I didn't see it. Pardon? Well, I saw it was in the newspaper, so I didn't see it actually. But all I know is this, I don't think we need to have alcohol here. If people want to go to stuff where you can have a lot of alcohol, they can go somewhere else. They can go this. I'm serious, we don't need it here. We are a town, it's a town of family, church, loving on one another, and not getting what people get sometimes. I did look up some statistics. Johns Hopkins University, 4 cans of beer is considered being drinking. 5 for a woman. You can't tell me that somebody would be in the park getting more beer than it's considered. Thank you very much.
The next one we have is Barbara Ainsworth.
Other people have said it all, I think. I thank you for letting me have some of the time. I do not see why any special meeting, any party, or special events need alcohol to make them happier, to make the party successful. You can drink water, there's a lot of things, but you don't need alcohol to make things better. And I agree with my husband, and I do agree on some things, of course. Anyway, please think seriously about this. It will reflect poorly on our little town. We've lived here since 1967, and I love this little town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one left, and this one, I received a phone call and an email, and I wish to share it with you, and I did fill out a form to do so. Dear Ms. Salmon, first I want to tell you who this is from, and it's from a man named Robert Jeffries. He is the pastor of the large First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. In case you don't know, he is Robert and Dorothy Fielder's grandson and the spokesman for the Fielder family. And he sent me this email. I want to applaud, dear Ms. Salmon, I want to applaud you for the proposed ordinance to make city property an alcohol-free zone, including Dorothy Fielder Park. Although I'm not a citizen of Van Alstyne, I have deep roots in your wonderful town through 4 generations of my family members, including my mother, uncle, and grandparents, Robert and Dorothy Fielder. Although the Fielder family would not have considered themselves to be teetotalers, they invested their lives to better their community and the lives of their citizens. They talked often of the tragic stories of people they loved who became victims of alcohol abuse. Because of their deep love for children, my grandmother Dorothy taught for many years in the Van Alstyne Public School. I know they would have been very alarmed at the prospect of children enjoying Dorothy Fielder Park being exposed to alcohol. The facts are clear. 1 in 6 Americans are prone to alcoholism. As a pastor, I see almost daily the devastating effects of those who cannot handle alcohol. Illness, loss of jobs, divorce, and death. While I believe that every adult has a right to make the decision for himself whether or not to drink, I believe any city, including our beloved Van Alstyne, would be best served by not exposing its children to this potentially destructive decision. May God grant you His wisdom in making this decision. That is from Mr. Jeffries, and for those of you who are not aware, the Fielder family did donate the land for not only for the Dorothy Fielder Park, but also for the McKinney-Wilson Park.
Would you please repeat those last few sentences?
I believe any city, including your beloved Van Alstyne, would be best served by not exposing its children to this potentially destructive decision. May God grant you His wisdom in making this decision. Sincerely, Dr. Robert Jeffries. At this time, that does conclude the comments regarding this ordinance. So we will go back to the ordinance, and we have three ordinances for council's consideration. Ordinance A does not allow alcohol on city property, nor does it allow this to be done with a permit. Ordinance B does not allow alcohol on city property except for a one-time special event. The permit cost is $50. It does not address location or what a special event is determined as being. A special event could be a class reunion, family reunion, birthday, anything the applicant defines. It does require a 31-day filing before the event. It does not address restroom facilities, nor our parks. Not all of our parks do have that. Ordinance C does not allow alcohol on city property except for a $50 permit and requirements under Section 3C, number 1, 2, and 3. Also, this must be filed 10 days before the one-time special event. And it does not address the issues of liability to the city. This is, and I feel like this is a city issue that must be considered when alcohol is allowed. At this time, I will take comments from the council, and we will start with Councilman Flake. Do you have any comments regarding item 6?
Yeah, well, I have a couple of questions too, initially. If I understand correctly, ordinance 320, that we already have in place,
Right.
if the words, city-owned property and parks were added to that, then that would cover everything and it would already be covered. Is that not true? If you go, from what I understood from ordinance 320, it lists everything else except for those.
The old ordinance from 1973 was adopted before the state legislatures in Austin decided that state law should preempt local decision-making in regards to alcohol. So the places in that ordinance where alcohol is prohibited, you could not adopt all of those today. Today you can do parks because you own the property. You're not regulating someone's private property. You're regulating property owned by the city. The change in the law where the state took some of that local control away occurred in 1987. And so any ordinance that was on the books prior to 1987 was grandfathered and is allowed to remain in place. So I didn't want to amend or even touch that ordinance because you do have things in there that are grandfathered that you couldn't do now. And all three of these ordinances expressly preserve that ordinance and say that it's not being changed. So that's why it's being done in a separate ordinance instead of just amending the old one from 1973.
Presently, what are okay, like this facility here, if somebody gets it for a private party, can they have alcohol at that private party?
Presently, no, I believe the city has a policy that does not allow alcohol use by anyone who is renting the community center.
But it pertains to the community center only.
And it's a policy, it's not an
under
ordinance.
the community center policy.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Is it possible to go back and if you pass the ordinance now that takes away the rights to having alcohol in a park or any place like that, number 8 or whatever, then is it possible to go back and have a special event and override part of that with a special event?
If
have
you
to do them all at the same
do
time.
an ordinance amendment or some
you'd have
type
to
of
do
special
both.
exception, but it would be a council
Yeah.
action.
But it'd have to be something else. Because if I understand correctly, presently we have like the Falderall and different things like that that come on board the community. And I think there's a wine tasting thing that's a part of that, which I assume then would not be allowed to be there under this, if we just pass.
This pertains to city property, not
Well,
capital
city controlled
property
which is
or other
streets.
property.
Well, if they do them on the streets,
Well, the streets it would not, they couldn't do it on the street because of the ordinance that's already in effect.
so we just failed to do anything about it when they did it last time. Okay.
Councilman.
Well, that answered a lot of my questions right there. I mean, the simplest solution to this is, in my mind, is obviously just the blanket of not allowing alcohol on city property, the ordinance number 8. You know, I've heard a lot of different arguments from both sides, but when you have friends and family, a lot of my family in law enforcement and doctors and nurses, and you get to hear all the cases. And, you know, you may have 99 good events. It's that one event that something bad goes wrong. And it's all it takes is one. And then we're up here saying, why did we do that? So that would be my opinion on this ordinance. Is it's simpler, instead of trying to find places where we can put in permits or find a way to make it work. I think it is simpler. It's definitely safer for the city. I think it reduces the liability and the risk. Tim's always going to have his handful with people that want to disobey the laws, but at least this gives us some ability to enforce it.
Thank you. Councilman Jessica.
I know a lot of people that are here were at the Meet the Candidates forums that we had, and a lot of talk there was about unifying the community, everybody pulling together to grow the community together. I know I've only been on the council for a short time. I've been in the community for almost 7 years. I've never seen anything divide this community like this issue has. And I think what we need to do is we're going to have to, like Pastor Jackson said, there are plenty of other ways to bring the community together than with the use of alcohol. While I understand that there are events that alcohol is present, there are times and places for those events. I don't think it needs to be out in the open. If it happens to be a banquet or some other thing that is privately held, I think that's the appropriate time. That way, the people that want to go can go, and the people that don't want to go don't have to go. But having it in a public park or an outside area to where just anybody can come in, I don't think that's what we need to unify this town.
Thank you.
I've also talked to a lot of people on both sides of this issue, and I agree that this has caused a lot of division in the city, and that's for the next team. I personally want to just address the ordinances B and C. I think there are major flaws in both of those. I don't think they would get us where we want to go. I think that at this point in time, the right thing to do is what fits the community. And so that's our thoughts.
I'm not surprised that 37% of people who commit crimes had something to drink, but to penalize the rest of the people that don't even commit crimes, not allowing them to drink alcohol, I'm not sure that that's the right thing to do either. I know that tonight there are people here who wanted to speak and not being allowed to. I think there are two sides to this issue, two legitimate sides. I think that both sides should be heard. This is not a one-sided issue. I also think, now the old ordinance is clearly, it's vague, it's insufficient, and we need to do something about that. Now the three new proposals, I don't think that they're sufficient either. I think that more thought needs to be put into those, so that whichever of the three we might promote, or whichever is closest to what we might promote, there's more thought put into it. I really think, my opinion is that this ought to be tabled this time. But I think that we need to get our heads together on these ordinances and see what we want to do. And once again, I want to say that there are people on the other side of this issue, and those people, I think that the vast majority of people who do have a beer or a glass of wine do so responsibly. And I think that there are occasions when we could have a wine or a beer booth set up, maybe an area where it's contained. I mean, there are things that we can do, and I'm not prepared right now to say that I'm ready to deny all of that. I'd like to do more public. I'd like to get together with my fellow councilors and see what we can do. I'm not going to punish people who respond.
At this time, the question is to allow alcohol on city property. Is there a motion from the council at this time regarding this?
I make a motion that we approve that we accept ordinance A, which does not allow alcohol in the city property at all.
I have a motion. Is there a second? I have a second. Is there any further discussion? All of those in favor of approving ordinance A, please raise your hand. Opposed? The motion for ordinance A passes 4 for, 1 against. Thank you very much. Number 7. The next item on the agenda is to approval of the minutes of the May 13th, 2014 regular meeting and the May 19th, 2014 special call meeting. Are there any questions or corrections needed in regard to this? Councilman Jaska? Councilman Moore? Councilman Flake?
I'm not sure.
I didn't ask you first.
I know, but I'm not sure on this one. Item number 6, it said a citizen asked for a proposed change in fencing, but that one, item 6 doesn't talk about fencing and item 5 does. Should that be up there with, or did he actually talk about fencing?
He did actually talk about the fencing on 6. So.
I just wasn't sure whether it makes total sense to me.
Gotta get those fences in there.
Let's see.
Okay, do you have any other questions?
No.
Can I add one correction on the minutes from May 13th? It lists Julie in attendance, but it should be Brenda McDonald.
regarding the May 19th meeting? Okay. All of those in favor of approving the minutes for the 2 meetings with the correction? Oh, I thought you made a motion. I'm sorry. I will take a motion at this time.
I make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All of those in favor of approving the minutes for May 13 and May 19, please raise your hand. Thank you. It is unanimous. The next item on our agenda is the presentation of certificates of appreciation to Karen Tuber and Jim Smith. So, if you will, Karen, please come forward. Jim is not able to be here tonight, but Karen will be accepting his award for him. We want to present you with this plaque in appreciation for your time served on the city council. It's, you know, everybody can always tell you what to do and how to do it, but it's very difficult when you're the one standing up there in front. And we do appreciate your time and your efforts that you have put forth in the past 2 years. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I want to congratulate my successor for a win in the election, and also hope that he enjoys it as much as I did.
Thank you very much. We are now in the paper.
That's dangerous.
You don't break Jim's before he gets there. The next item on the agenda is number 9. Consider and take any action necessary regarding a request by the owner agent of the property described in Division Van Alstyne Block 3. This is property that was on 361 West Van Alstyne Parkway. This request was made by Ronald and Julie Gentry. Are they present here tonight? Do you have anything that you would like to say to the council?
None.
Okay. This is to change the current zoning from C1 to SF72, single family residential. Do you have any questions regarding this, Councilman Cooper? Councilwoman Keller? Councilman Jessica? Councilman Russell? Over? Councilman Clark. Okay.
I have 1 or 2 questions. One is, I assume then that you're going back from renting to a business to renting to as a house?
Yes, sir.
Someone to live in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the plans for the future of it right now?
Plan for the future right now.
Okay. Okay, that was all I had.
This was originally residential.
Yes, sir.
And then it was commercial.
It is commercial.
No, it's back commercial.
Okay, is there a motion at this time?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from Councilman Blake. Is there a second? Councilman Miller. Any further discussion from council? At this time, those in favor, please raise your hand. The motion passes unanimously. Consider and take any action necessary regarding a request by the owner agent for the property at 173 Allfield Way. And this is to change the current zoning of Central Business District to planned development. And this is to allow for light manufacturing. This was brought by Bird Bedford, the company, it's Chad David Outdoors. Is that correct? Mr. Bedford, are you present? Okay. Does council have any questions for Mr. Bedford? Councilman Floyd.
Well, I have a question, first of all, for one of our members of the planning and zoning, just asked something like that. I have a question for, when you decided to go to plan development, why is light manufacturing not in any other category than that, or?
No, the plan development, we took that with restrictions that would continue to have the central business restrictions.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's not just on the plan development, we're going to believe that the attorney would write the documents accordingly so that it would just be open.
Okay, because I knew plan development lets you do about anything you want. So is that true?
Yes, the light manufacturing is allowed by right on property zoned industrial, and there wasn't a desire for this to be an industrial property and for the items that affect property in the central business district to go away. It's still one of those regulations to apply. So a plan development basically lets you write your own rules. And so this plan development has two rules. One is they have to comply with everything that property in the central business district must comply with. And then it just allows one additional use that the rest of central business district doesn't allow,
Okay.
which is light manufacturing, which is a specific definition in the zoning ordinance. So if you look at the proposed ordinance, based on the vote by your planning and zoning commission, it references that specific zoning. And my understanding is that they want to assemble deer stands or something of that nature.
Okay, that's all question I have.
Councilman Gaska. I'm still on Billy.
Yes, I have a question. Do you have any idea what the noise level would be?
Really minimal. We don't have like a lot of repetitive work where there's a lot of, let's say like cutting or something like that. Usually you cut 2 or 3 pieces and then string them together, so that's not a whole lot of noise. There's not a lot of, sometimes like 8 hours of caffeine and you know, noise coming down, it's not really fast. It comes and goes. There may be 2 or 3 days where I work solid on stuff, and then I may go 2 weeks for nothing to do.
I believe I looked at the property, it's a metal building, is that right? Double garage door?
Yes, it used to be a car wash.
Is your work done inside?
Yes.
At this time, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously, I believe, Mr. Floyd. I have had a special request to move one item up. It is item number 18, consider and take any action necessary regarding proposed street repairs to be performed by Grayson County Road Crew. And that is for Jeff Whitmire. Would you like to?
I didn't know Steve would address it. I was requesting to provide processing on.
Steve, would you like to start?
I will start. As in the past, since I've been here, we've started some type of program to repurpose roads, and I'd like to continue doing so. This year, we're looking at refurbishing about 16 streets or sections of streets, and it cost $181,221. There's a correction on the streets. It's the third one down. It says Cooper, Dallas, Maine. It's supposed to be Dallas, Waco. But this is a program that I've worked with the county for last year, and I want to continue to do so. They do such a great job.
For the purpose of our audience, who I know everybody is interested in our streets, so I will read off the names of the streets where it is proposed. Hill Street will start at beginning at Tulane and ending at Tolson. East Clements, starting at Pearl, ending at Knox. West Cooper, starting at Dallas and ending at Waco, is that correct? East Cooper, starting at North Main and ending at Preston. Let me know if you hear your street. East Clements, North John Douglas, ending at Sherman. North John Douglas, starting at Thule, ending at Spence. North Preston, starting at Marshall and ending at Van Alstyne Parkway. South Preston, starting at Houston, ending at Fulton. North Main, starting at Cooper and ending at Van Alstyne Parkway. Austin, starting at Preston and ending at North Main. Gentry, starting at Fulton, ending at Jefferson. Littrell, starting at Fulton, ending at Jefferson. Dallas, starting at Van Alstyne Parkway and ending at Jefferson. Fulton, starting at Waco and ending at Preston. Moody, starting at Wayne and ending at Jefferson. South Preston, starting at Houston, ending at Umphress. And Paris, starting at Waco and ending at Preston. That is the list. So.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that a different list than we have?
Well, I don't think so.
Is that a newer list than we have?
You specified North Preston, we don't have anything in North Preston in this place.
Okay. I have North Preston starting at Marshall and ending at Van Alstyne
Have you got
Parkway.
that new piece I put on there?
No. Okay. Clement, East Clements, West Cooper, East Clements, North John Douglas. Is that the only one that is different?
Yes, ma'am. The cost on it was extremely high, they exceeded the budget amount, so that came out for this year.
Sorry. Maybe next year.
Just as a note, all these streets will be a full depth reclamation where we will be lining like what we did last year and going back and adding proper base to everything. So hopefully we can I might also add that because of the extensive list here, we do discount the labor cost in there pretty heavily, because we're not going to be having to transport stuff back and forth. I'm going to have a real busy year. We've got a lot of winter damage to our county roads, so it's going to be a struggle to get all of our county barges in the season. It's a lot of it. We're committed to doing our best, and weather can always play havoc with us, but we should have time to make sure we do it. Thanks so much.
We do in all elected officials.
Do you have any other questions?
Bill, do you have any questions?
Yes. What? Couldn't think of Steve. Do we have the sewer lines and water lines and all that kind of stuff that should be fixed underneath these before we're building?
Well, Frank always asks me that. It may take us 25 years to fix all those.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get the streets repaired. And when we do if we have to do any repairs on them, what we'll do is come in and put global fill, which is global concrete, from the bottom up, and then we'll put asphalt on top of that to do the repairs. And that meets TxDOT standards.
Okay. Is there a present street that we did last year that we could let the people know about, that they can go look at and see this is how it's going to end up?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
North Main from Thule all the way down to the end of that.
Thule North then?
Yeah, North Main. And then also Texana, Miller.
Okay.
And Bailey was a very bad road.
Okay.
It's pretty smooth now.
Okay.
As far as addressing the water thing, when we go in and grind the roads, I know nobody likes having a gravel road for a period of time to get proper compaction. We do have to leave gravel for 4 to 6 weeks on the water and working it, rolling it. And if there's something that needs to be done, that's a prime time to do it. If we've got the road tore up, that's the time to do it.
Have we got a map of the city that shows these?
We'll have one by next meeting because I'm supposed to get it to Lynn.
Will there be a way to get to the newspaper?
Yes.
You guys could maybe put it in the newspaper?
Maybe we can put it in the newsletter.
Huh?
Maybe
And the
we
mayor
can
can put it in the newsletter, that's right. Let's get that by the.
That way we know it's going out every newsletter.
And this is spending all the money we approved, right?
Well, I've got part of it in pothole patching.
Oh, okay, okay.
I haven't adjusted.
But we are spending money we appropriate. Okay.
You give it to me, I'll spend it.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Councilman Moore. Councilman Jackson.
No, Billy Blake asked good
And do we need a formal action on this?
Yes, ma'am. The motion is to follow the interlocal agreement between the city of Alstyne and Grayson County to have the market form.
Is there a motion that we approve the interlocal agreement between the city of Alstyne and Grayson County? Is there a second? We have a second, our motion by Ms. Mullin, second by Billy White. Any further discussion? All of those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Back to number 11, consider and take any action necessary regarding the appointment of a mayor pro tem. The local government code section 22.037 and section 23.027 call for the new council to elect one alderman to serve as mayor pro tem for the term of 1 year at each new governing body's first meeting or as soon as practical. This is our first. If the mayor fails or is unable or refuses to act, the president pro tem shall perform the mayor's duty and is entitled to receive the fees and compensation prescribed. In other words, double nothing. If the mayor and president pro tem are absent, any alderman may be appointed to preside at the meeting. So at this time, we are in need of electing a mayor pro tem. Is there a motion to that effect from anyone on the council?
Make a motion to elect Billy Blake as mayor.
We have a motion to re-elect Billy White as mayor pro tem. Is there, and we have a second from Councilman Moore. Any further discussion? All of those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Item number 12. Consider and take any action necessary regarding a request by the owner agent to plat the Crossroads, Lot 4R and 5, Block 1 of the property being 33.687 acres in the James McKinney survey and the William Dale survey of Van Alstyne in Grayson County. This property to plat is identified in your packet as on a map. The physical impact is the approval of the proposed plat will allow for further development along Farm to Market 121 West, which will result in increased property tax revenues and potentially sales tax revenue. This has been recommended that the council approve it by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The property that we are discussing is the property
It's in between Quick Farm and Landmark Bank or 121 on the south border.
as far as just past McDonald's and then Are there any questions from council on this? Councilman Jaska? Councilman Moore? Councilman White?
Yeah, what does it mean to flat the crop? Does that mean they divide it up to decide what to do with it? Or, I mean, like you flat a neighborhood, you flat where the streets are going, right? Am I wrong about that?
They're selling a section of the property, of the larger piece.
Oh, okay.
For development, and while retaining the large piece for.
So they own other property around there, but they're selling that part, the part that's in the park.
Look at your map that's provided. That whole section that bridges Cartwright and 75, the only section that's going to be parceled out is a small section right in between Quick Car and Landmark.
Okay.
For they're only purchasing a portion of it, so that has to be parceled out. So.
It's bordered, it's the park that's bordered on one bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you.
Okay, there being no further questions, is there a motion?
I make a motion to allow you to do the flag.
Is there a second? We have a motion from Councilman Floyd, second by Councilman Jaska to approve this. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is passed unanimous. We now have item number 13, consider and take any action necessary pursuant to an agenda request submitted by Gwendolyn Tillman, representing the Van Alstyne Chamber of Commerce, regarding a presentation from the Van Alstyne Chamber of Commerce and its Board of Directors regarding the adoption of a special events ordinance. And we do have some audience input on this. So what I will do is go ahead and do that for your presentation, if that's all right. Okay, can I go ahead with this? The public's comments. Well, you can. Go ahead and then we'll have public comments regarding this.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Prime Minister, Mr. Cooper, Ms. Kelly, Mr. Jaska, Mr. Moore, Mr. Flake, Jennifer, Ford, Tim, Landon. Hi, Tracy. My name is Gwendolyn Tillman. I'm very happy to be the president of the Chamber of Commerce. It's not a job I take lightly. My job is to promote businesses, and this town, not only the chamber, but the businesses which will bring more revenue, more income to our people, more happiness, more cohesion, more activities. I want to propel this town forward and create a cohesion among many events, many organizations, churches, groups, entities, clubs, all of those who share a sense of pride and nostalgia about our great past and how it was and how it can be again. Tonight, the Chamber of Commerce is going to present to you a proposition about special event ordinance. And it seems we've been voted out before even having a chance to speak, which I have to question because we submitted paperwork to speak about a special event ordinance. The ordinance A, B, and C, well, ordinance B and C mentioned special events. We were not allowed to speak prior to placing the votes. I don't know if there's any way to declare that invalid because we were not allowed to speak even though the paperwork was submitted. I would just like to bring that to point because we specifically said we wanted to talk about a special event ordinance. And on both ordinance B and C, it's listed special events. One time, yes. Well, we said special event ordinance. We have not been allowed to speak. I just want to make that for the record because that was, I think, an unfair representation of the argument. Now back to what we were originally going to talk about. Chamber of Commerce will present you a proposal for a special events ordinance. Such an ordinance is a tool to not only streamline the implementation of events at Van Alstyne, but also to encourage ideas for promoting celebrating and magnifying our wonderful town. Our city is indeed blessed to have as citizens a number of artists, musicians, artisans, farmers, entrepreneurs, families and business owners, those who have invested not only their time and money, their blood, sweat, and tears. They've invested with struggling to provide for their family based on owning a business in town when there are not enough consumers or customers. Are they going to leave behind a house to their heirs that is in a withering town or in a city that is thriving? For the purpose of our proposal, a special event is described as an event or gathering that requires a temporary exception to otherwise applicable rules or requirements, including but not limited to citywide garage sales. You have no idea how many people have asked me about that. It's illegal unless we have a certain ordinance. Fundraisers, block parties like we used to have in the early 1900s, street dances, festivals, art shows, banquets, weddings, performances. No one said anything about birthday parties. With a simple application for a permit, any entity who wishes to hold an event will know exactly the limitations and also expectations of hosting an event, as will the city of Alstyne. Additionally, the city will be protected from liability issues, and with the special events ordinance, there will be no unexpected costs incurred. For example, cleaning up, additional security. And what purpose does the special events ordinance serve? Is there a goal, in other words? Yes, most assuredly. The special events ordinance will be a catalyst for growth, welcoming the citizens, both new and old. Special events will promote our local history, our culture, from 100 years ago up till today. The sense of pride and excitement that is growing daily will be more apparent than it has been in years. A groundswell of energy currently sizzles through this town, mostly positive, and it only serves to enhance all of our lives. A portion of this energy is the cohesion now felt and experienced by so many of the various entities in this town, be it the police, the fire department, the chamber, keeping us the beautiful friends of the library, the churches, you name it. We're all working together now. First time in years. We're making a stand and work together for this community. Excuse me? Our many various businesses will increase their exposure to the variety of people, consumers who are drawn for our special events. And when they have more consumers, they make more money, they can provide better for their family, for their children. And when they get more money, the city gets more tax revenue. And we can fix our roads. It's a win-win situation. So with that introduction, let me go ahead and begin our presentation. One of the most charming qualities of newly arrived visitor to VA, Van Alstyne, soon observes is the genuine friendliness of the local citizen. Easy to engage in a conversation, inevitably, the more senior ones will quickly reminisce about the good old days, when on the weekend, the sidewalks were filled with locals as well as visitors from the surrounding communities, all having a good time, strolling around the center block, having a hamburger, having an ice cream, going to the movie theater. This was the place to be. Fast forward to the present. On the average Friday or Saturday night, traversing down Highway 121, East Jefferson Street, where I live, you'd be lucky to find one or two cars, maybe three, maybe none. Nothing going on. Everything looks bleak and deserted. Now imagine crossing the railroad tracks coming to town from the east or from the direction of Highway 5 or 75. And you see couples and families strolling on the sidewalks. Colorful stalls or booths with local merchants advertising the tasty specialties. A Texoma vineyard offering samples. Artists showing their creations. And museum staff proudly showing regional artifacts. All accompanied by joyful music coming from the newly built stage in front of the railroad tracks, highlighting our heritage. Welcome to Van Alstyne. You just arrived. But we can do more. Currently, the Chamber of Commerce, with the encouragement and support of some people in City Hall, the police and fire departments, are actively engaged in planning and organizing a variety of local downtown events with the ultimate goal of making Van Alstyne there's too much, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, etc. So with a permit, a special events permit, everything will be streamlined. Everyone knows who's doing what. There are no questions. Everyone follows a certain pattern of rules, certain things they have to do, things they have to pay for, insurances they have to provide. It's simple, streamlined. That would include basically a standard operating manual, that's what the ordinance would be, that specifically addresses all aspects of a planned event, like permits, licenses, road closing, restricted locations for beer and wine consumption, parking, required policing staff, etc. It is fair to presume that these type of events benefit the local merchants in the form of exposure to greater potential clients, and the city is receiving greater tax revenues. Well, Van Alstyne Chamber of Commerce respectfully asks the City Council to reconsider adopting a special event ordinance and allow once again Van Alstyne to realize its manifest potential as being a vibrant and fun place to live and for people to visit. Tonight there are a number of chamber members who desire to speak. From newcomers to business owners to family members who enjoyed the interurban railroad cars all those years ago as a source of transportation. Each will explain to you in their own words why a special event ordinance is necessary. First, let me introduce Paul Nobles. He's an entrepreneur who recently moved here. He's about to open a coffee shop. When he moved here, he brought not only his family, but suitcases full of ambition and energy, positive energy, and he has made a big difference in the few months he's already been here. So, Paul, please come up.
Mayor, Council. Just a quick second, just to kind of introduce myself. Paul Nobles, I'm a coffee guy. When I first considered moving here, I was looking for a small, quiet place that's, kind of in the country, but still big enough, close enough to the city where my wife didn't have a long. So I found that here in Newland. I was exploring my new downtown. Found an economic development center, just caught my eye when I was driving by. And I thought, right, what is that? I'll check that out. So I came back, I looked at it. I met Anita, and she was very helpful. Knew a lot about the city. Was just incredibly friendly. And she mentioned, I mentioned to her that I wanted to run a coffee shop. She said, "Well, that's on our list." So we had a great, rapport just immediately right off the bat. So she inspired me that day as an entrepreneur, and I've had a few businesses. First brick and mortar. That positive energy from the EDC, City Hall, Chamber, I mean, that really inspired me to build something. I felt like it was meant to be. All the way down from, Ty, the city inspector, or to the Grayson County Health Department. So I'll be opening my coffee shop next couple days, and I've just been shown great hospitality, and I come from Austin, and I've also lived in some other places that had a lot of events and stuff. You guys have helped me tremendously. Early in my residence here, I saw there was a kind of split, a couple of different sides that, sort of wanted to keep Austin small town, and then other groups that wanted to grow. I actually think we're all on the same team. We're all here to live in a small town, but we all still want to grow. As a newcomer, I encourage the City Council to keep Van Alstyne's unique history. And when we bring in new businesses, they're complementary to us. The developments, the new housing, whatever it is, they're complementary to our style that we like, because we're all here for that same reason. I think we already created an atmosphere of abundance, positive energy, just for the people, everybody else. It's really incredible. I think we should use this energy to pave the way for small businesses to help us grow. We don't want the big box stores, they have them down the street. Very excited for them, and it's great that they're close by. We don't want them here, I don't want them here. I'd like to have small business growth. One way we can do this is attract people. We want a family-friendly atmosphere, so people enjoy it, get to know our town, get to know the history. I've been very interested in learning more about the history. So one way we can do this is to have some festivals or some events, showcase our town, showcase our history, showcase everything about us that makes us unique, and we need to keep that uniqueness. I encourage our city council to enact some guidelines for planned events. This will bring communities together. We should make it easy and fun to plan an event in our city. I believe especially this ordinance would streamline this process, bring fun excitement from all over the state to our city. That's really all I have. Thank you.
Next we have Ms. Margaret Barron. And let me tell you, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I was going back and forth.
Well, she's on my presentation.
Oh.
Margaret Barron, woman is fearless in the pitch to her, even a chainsaw. Please come up, Margaret.
Thank you for letting me share my story. I'm a newcomer also, and my roots are in Austin, but I was born in Austin, out here in Cold Springs at my grandmother's house in 1938. We lived in Westminster the first 6 years of my life, and my dad was a farmer, but every Saturday, weather permitting, we came to Dallas, and everybody else came to Dallas. The streets and the sidewalks were just crowded with people. They were visiting, and the stores were open. It was fantastic. My favorite store was Mrs. Beasley's variety store. That was my favorite. Because Mom always said, if you're good, you'll go see Miss Beasley. And then ice cream parlor. I remember going over there and sitting in the window, and I believe that place is the Summit Hardware building now. Sitting in that window with my mom eating ice cream and watching the people go by. So I drive around this community and memories come back, because I never came back after we left and moved to a ranch in Oklahoma. Came back once when I was 12 to visit my grandparents who lived over in the eastern part of town. Anyhow, I love the town, and I feel like I have come home. This is where I'm going to be growing up. My family is all in the cemetery back there, including my husband. So I want, before I pass on, I would love to see the spirit and the hustle and bustle. And I'd like to see stores, and I'd like to see us thriving there, because we was thriving there. And that was the Depression years. But dang, it was fun. Everybody got all dressed up, went to town, and we walked the streets, and that was our entertainment. They had a movie there too. And my mom went to see Mom Would Win at that movie. Her head was in the cloud for 3 months. We couldn't see her, after she saw that movie. That's all she talked about. But anyway, it was good. I wish I had been able to go down. But I came back. I have no family here, but I have friends, and you guys are with me.
Next, Cheryl Slider, co-owner of Summit Mercantile, former president of the Chamber of Commerce.
It's not
evening, Mayor, council members. Thanks for having us. What I wanted to talk about tonight was the excitement that I see coming to this town. We have heard the stories. We're excited imagining what it must have been like before the interurban rail cars stopped running. A lively and fun town every day, particularly on the weekends. People coming from miles around to be entertained and to shop. That is what we've been told. It is the town that we imagined again. It's not the town we have now. Today we have businesses struggling to survive and many leaving within 6 months to a year of opening. Almost empty streets on any day of the week, and on days and at times that should be high traffic. Our infrastructure is in disrepair because the city doesn't receive enough tax dollars from the few homes and businesses that are here to keep up with crumbling infrastructure. Many of the homes that are here are struggling to stay in good repair as well, but almost every home has the pride of a freshly mowed lawn. For those of you who would like to see the town stay exactly as it is, it will not. Either we can continue to watch it deteriorate, or we can plan for the future growth that is inevitably coming our way. What we at the Chamber envision is the town we've been told Van Alstyne once was, but with all of the modern conveniences of this century. We look forward to a strong and vital town with businesses that are thriving and growing and bringing in tax dollars. We want a well-planned and safe community and events to attract families and individuals to shop and enjoy what we have to offer, with the idea of possibly moving here one day. We feel the groundswell of excitement in the community and the pride in our town. We have a charming downtown that many of our neighboring communities aren't lucky enough to have. Let's use it to our advantage and take good care of it. We at the Chamber have unlimited ideas. We would like to encourage the current City Council to enact an ordinance for special events that both protects the community and encourages responsible organizations to hold fun and inventive activities. At the moment, we in the downtown area struggle to bring people who live in the outskirts of Van Alstyne into town because they don't think anything is here. They are used to going to McKinney or Sherman for whatever they need. We would like to change that mindset and show everyone that we have a lot to offer. We have our third annual Fall Roll coming up in October. Fall Roll has been very successful and continues to grow. It has brought recognition, activity, publicity, lots of fun, and tax dollars to Van Alstyne, and as far as I know, no ill effects. We want to offer more to our town. Don't miss the train. Help us bring vitality back to Van Alstyne by passing a special events ordinance that will work for this community now and in the future. Thank you.
And now Judy Lomax, former CDC board member, former Chamber board member, current grandmother, mother, wife, and currently open to Van Alstyne Youth.
As we all know, Van Alstyne is a city with many great attributes, and the greatest asset of all that makes it really unique and special are the good people that are here. The good people who come together in time of need, who share with one another and deeply care for one another. A very recent example of good people with that formidable Van Alstyne spirit is this past weekend. An energetic, dedicated group of people came together to keep Van Alstyne beautiful, to clean up the downtown area. We weeded and mowed, cleaned up debris, picked up trash, raked, hoed, and planted. And we had everyone there from high school students through seniors who actually cared enough to come together, give up their Saturday, and make a difference. And in doing so, they instilled that sense of pride and camaraderie that pulls the community together and gives it roots. As Gwendolyn mentioned, those that have lived here for a long time speak wistfully of times gone by. The times when there was vibrancy and life to the downtown area, where people came together and had that sense of pride and camaraderie. Numerous times I've heard people talk about how they miss having the fall festival and how they would love to have it here again. I've heard people talk about how they'd love to have the 4th of July celebration downtown. And people who've grown up here talk about the street dances that they had in the past and the fun that everyone had. And there were actually lots of people who attended. Smaller communities within the city seem to fare quite well. But it's the city as a whole that's split with different opinions and ideas, not in common opportunity, i.e. growth and change, arrive and start knocking at the door. And too many times I've witnessed activities that have been put together in the city with painstaking time and kind of sweat. And then nobody comes. I mean, the attendance is so poor. When it concerns the downtown area, I see small segments of the community unite over negative issues instead of coming together to really enjoy one another and have fun at events that we put on. And in some cases, it isn't uniting over negativity, it's languishing in apathy, which is the two extremes of the spectrum. In every city, there's always things that work well and things that do not. In every situation, that's true. There's a fact that focusing attention on what isn't working within the city creates more of the same. And equally, it's a fact that concentrating energies on what is working will also create more of the same. A clear example of something that would work very beneficially to the city is having that special events ordinance in place so that every time we can explain it, the guidelines are clearly defined. With this ordinance in place, we'll not have to start over repeatedly with 100 different varying opinions clashing against one another. We can have democracy here again. And although we can never go back to create exactly the same as it was, we can create a downtown area that draws people together, where businesses flourish and the citizens have pride in their city. A place where people work and play together to create a better place now and for future generations.
In conclusion, I would just like to address a few things that have been erroneously assumed this evening regarding the consumption of beer and wine. With the special event ordinance, first of all, that is not the main goal of it. If we were to pass a special event ordinance, if there were sales of beer and wine, it would be in a designated area. Whoever sold would have their license, it would all be regulated. So as far as the thought of people walking down the street, not going to happen. You can't even do that in Dallas. Second of all, and on a personal note, if I can dare to be personal, going out on a limb here, I think when you make things like alcohol so taboo, you only encourage the kids to do more, to drink. I grew up in Plano. I went to Plano Bible Chapel. In my youth group were 20 people. By the time I graduated high school, half of them were in rehab. Or they're half pregnant, except for me. I got a scholarship because I didn't do any of that. Because everything was so strictly controlled. It makes the kids more curious. And we're not going to give any alcohol to kids. It's not that. It's misreading it, I have to say. So we need to be careful about that as well. Sure, our kids, they imitate what they see. Yes, they do. But they also are curious about what they're doing. And they go to extremes. It's my 2 cents worth, and trust me, it's personal. So with that, was there anyone else who wanted to speak from the chamber? Okay. So, with the dedication and determination to bring more people, businesses, and prosperity to our lovely Van Alstyne, myself and the chamber would encourage the mayor and the city council to reconsider the special event ordinance. And again, to allow Van Alstyne to realize its manifest potential as a vibrant and fun place to live as it used to be. It should be lived. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your proposal. The ordinance that was passed tonight does not in any way refer to any special event. It only refers to alcohol, and that is only on city property. And the special event ordinance, I think you're very well, I think the council does need to address that issue. And at this time, I would like council's input on that, and we will start with Councilman Blake.
My first question is, do you has your group worked on a special events? What you'd like to see in one, what you want the ordinance to look like?
I have an example.
Is it an example you guys have worked with? that
Well,
you-
no, it's one we've looked over from the town of Prosper, Texas.
Okay. It's something that we can have to look at and determine. Are you willing to sit down with a couple of council members and some people from your group and get together and make some decisions? Go ahead
Sit
and pass it
down.
out.
Perhaps with the city manager. Perhaps with the city manager.
Would there be a possibility of you said that you getting, or the city manager making up a committee of councilmen and people from your group and people, other people that you know of that schedule events around here or try to have events and get them all together to sort of pound out a events thing and then it
I
can be
think that would be,
presented back
that'd
to
be
us?
perfect. You know, I can't do it all, I don't,
Right.
nobody wants all my opinions, and we want input, we want this cohesion, we want everyone on the same page.
Okay, well, that way the city would be involved and they know what they, also may want to involve the police department as to what, because they're going to be highly involved in a special event probably.
So will the attorney.
Huh?
So would the attorney.
Yeah, but I'd hate to pay her for all, no. Until we get farther along. No.
Okay.
We're trying to save money now.
Councilman Hall.
I definitely believe we do need a special events ordinance. Number one, just for the city's purposes of managing. You come in, you have a special event, here comes Tim Barnes around the corner saying, what's going on here? I need people here. This is crazy. There's hundreds of people downtown. I wasn't aware of it. Just for the city to know about an event, so it can ask all the right questions, make sure all the right things are in place, but also so police department, fire department, they have to staff up for that event. There's a lot of good reasons for a special permit, and it doesn't have to be about making the city money, but it does need to allow the city to maybe promote, but also be prepared. You can talk to a lot of cities that I've heard mentioned out here today, and they've learned lessons the hard way without those, and then put them into place because of things that went crazy, things that went bad without the special events permit. So, and I don't think it needs to be done lightly. I agree with Billy. I think there needs to be careful attention paid. The city manager, Chief Barnes, and others need to have their input on it. Because with city government, city management, they know some things they want to know, things that we put into the ordinance. So yeah, I believe it's a very needed step to keep the ordinance.
I agree with both Billy and Russell. I think there was a misunderstanding because, like the mayor said, these were consumption of alcohol ordinances. The special event was added as a clause to that ordinance. I'm all about putting a special events ordinance together. I mean, that's going to unify all the organizations together, just like you explained it. I'm behind you 100%.
Yes. Wendell and everybody else that spoke, of the citizens that are here, I think that we definitely need a special events permit process. Every other city I've ever lived in, my life was a military brat, so I've lived in a lot of places, and I can't think of anywhere that didn't have a special event permit process. So I think we definitely need to look at that, and I personally think that we need to do this publicly like we did the water committee meetings. I think we need to hear all the citizens' input. We definitely need the staff's input. I think that make this a community we can be proud of and events that we can have fun with. And I think that we need to do this very publicly.
Looking over this example, which gave us from Prosper, I can see there are a lot of things in here that might not occur to us if we just try to throw something together. And so I think the purposes of the organization and putting them all together is especially
Okay, then. Okay, we have had council's input, and if I understand what you're saying is correct, it would be like having a meeting similar to the one that we had in regard to the water rates. I believe that Mr. Baker was in charge of that meeting, and we had 2 council members, and then we had volunteers from the public, anyone that wanted to do their input or contribution. Is that what you are proposing at this time? Then can I have a motion to that effect?
Yes, I make a motion to hold a special workshop to hear citizen and city staff's input on especially on the process proceedings.
In the same manner?
In the same manner as we did the water committee.
Is there a second? I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All of those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. I believe there were 2 council members that had volunteered to be on that committee, and they did you volunteers now? It wasn't an agenda in that we didn't have okay. Mr. Baker will be make that selection, I guess. The next item on the agenda is 14 and 15. And these are 2 that are very much alike. One is consider and take any action necessary regarding reappointments to the Van Alstyne EDC Board of Directors at Large seat. 15 is consider and take any action necessary regarding the appointments of the Van Alstyne EDC Board of Directors City Council seat. And I have spoke with Karen, and she does not wish to resubmit her application. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what we have is you have one that represents, one member of the city council who serves on this, that represents the council on the board. And we have an application from Councilwoman Kelly. We have an at-large seat. First, I would like to read who is on that board and their terms. And we have president, the EDC board is Arthur Atterbury. He is the president. His term is from 2013 to 2016. We have Nathan Petrie, vice president. His term is up this year, but not tonight. But he only served from 2013 to 2014. We have Ms. Kelly, who is in from 2013 to 2015. Nicholas Williams, 2013 to 2015. Ms. Karen's office was from 2013 to 2016. And the reason that I have read the years out to you is that you do not elect them for each one is from a different time, so that when one goes off the board, it is staggered. So we have an opening in Ms. Tuber, I want to say Tarbers, which would be for 2 years, but it would be a replacement of her, so that staggered appointment would be at that. So each one would go off at the correct time, each position. And then we have Ms. Kelly's, whose is October 2013 to 2015. So at this time, I will go for the city council seat. We have one application for that, and that is Councilwoman Kelly. Do you have any comments regarding this councilman place?
So would she be still 2015?
She would take Miss Tarver was there as a city council member.
That would just be.
No, that,
I don't think
can
there
I
was a
address the
requirement.
council on this?
I don't think they're
Yes.
required to be anybody
No,
on the council.
you're right.
board.
It
It's
wasn't.
not required, so there's no reason for her to change her office. There is no representative from the council on there. That was a thing that passed that they thought was a long time ago, but it never was.
It was, okay.
It's like we always had two positions on the CDC, but in reality, there was no positions on the CDC.
Well, I have the letter from our attorney, which says, Ms. Kelly was serving at large as recommended by the bylaws and is now a council person. She should not simply switch to the city council seat without council action, as that presumes the council would select her to be the city council director instead of any of the other 4 members of the city council.
At one point in time, the council took all the people off the thing and put all councilmen on.
Right.
And before that, there was no councilman on. And then eventually everybody got taken off the council and replaced with somebody except for Karen.
No, I had to reapply, and
Oh, did you at that time?
I absolutely reapplied. Can I address
Yeah.
the council? May I, Mayor?
Does anyone have any objections?
No.
Please
Okay.
clarify.
When I was, as Billy Flake, Councilman Flake pointed out, we were all put on the council, or on the board, when the replacement took place. And each one of us left at a certain time. I had to reapply, and I reapplied and was appointed to a 3-year term. And according to the bylaws, it says someone will be appointed for 1 year, and that was Nathan Petrie. Some 2 for 2 years, and that was Councilman Kelly and Nick, the fireman. And then there were 2 for 3 years, and that was Art Byrne, and me. It had nothing to do with the city council. The bylaws read that you may have a representative from the city council. Also, may have someone from the Chamber of Commerce, which we don't, and may have someone from the school, independent school district, and we do not. My appointment was for 3 years to fill this change that came when new appointees were made, and was not because I was a council member. And I did want to clarify that. I would continue to serve the rest of my term, the 2 more years. And like it says, I feel that is my position, and I would have to be removed by the council.
Then, at this time, do I need a room from
How many people are there on?
5?
No. There's just 5 on?
They're just fine. I read them off. The president, vice president,
I mean,
treasury,
that's 5
secretary,
positions,
director.
There's only 5, there's not a 6th position. Okay. So there are no positions.
Number one, what I see, it's either she was a council member and on it, and then we have to put somebody on it, or she goes the whole term. I mean, if that's the way it is, we need to know, because I got to make a decision based off of,
And we
I'm
have
going to do the
3,
right thing, not just,
and we do have 3 applications. We have 3.
oh, we got to do.
Yes, I think it was given to you tonight. Randy. Yes, and, so, we would like direction from our attorney, please.
I think to answer definitively what the intent was when Karen was appointed and what the other circumstances were, I would for me to say what the intent was and what actually happened, I would need a little bit of time to go back and review the facts of what occurred. I've been under the impression that she was serving as a council member, but yeah, I don't know for certain what facts we have going either way. If it makes a difference in your decision, I can do that, see the facts that staff and other people might remember. If it does, I mean, the council has the ability to replace people anytime it wants, so if it's not going to affect the decision making, then it's not worth spending the time. But if it is, then we need to be sure we have it correct.
Yes, sure.
Did you step down, or were you asked to step down?
I have not done either. I'm not going to reapply because I have been appointed for 3 years. And it would be the council's decision to remove me from the position. So, then I need council's comments regarding this. I'll start with you, Bill.
If Karen wants to stay on it and we don't want to vote her off, or anybody else off, if we're gonna put somebody on, we have to vote one of the 5 people off tonight. And I don't see any reason to do that. And as long as Karen likes serving on it, as long as she's serving us properly, as long as we don't, I haven't heard any complaints about her, so therefore I'm assuming she's doing this fine. So, why not let it continue like it is?
Personally, I like to table it because I'm not gonna throw out a decision that, I mean, if she's on for 3 years and she signed up for it, then, yeah, we have to keep her off, and I don't think that's what we want to do. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not an attorney, but I would think if she was appointed for a 3-year term, whether or not she was on the council, she's entitled to serve for 3 years.
That's right. So at this time, is there a motion?
Mayor, when there is a motion, Councilmember Kelly shouldn't vote since she's currently sitting on the board.
To keep the 2 on the, well, no, first we're not voting, we need a motion on whether to keep the 2 on the board, on the EBC board that are on there, or to change it.
Make a motion to table the item so legal can make sure that we're doing the right thing. I mean, if there's something documented that says that she was serving as a council member and that we do need to, that's different. But if she's not, then
Attorney,
Ms. Ford?
Yes, sir.
While you're thinking about your question, could we hear from the Secretary, Janina Larkin? Will you please speak to the fact of whether there must be a member of the council?
Well, I had the minutes from when all my board members were.
Okay.
Will that work, the minutes?
They certainly would be part of what should be reviewed, yes.
Okay, the first 2 people that were appointed were, about 3 people were Timothy Kelly, Nathan Petrie, and Nicholas Williams. going to go to the April 9th minute, to the matter at hand. It was number 14 on the agenda, and it said, consider and take any action necessary regarding appointments to the Van Alstyne Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. Mayor DeMasters advised council that the EDC board recommends appointment of Karen Tudor as a permanent member of the board. John Jennings made a motion to appoint Karen Tudor to the Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. Billy Blake seconded the motion, and the motion passed with John Jennings, Billy Blake, and Jim Smith in favor of Karen Tudor abstaining.
Thank you. Councilman Jessica.
Okay.
His question.
My question, I believe it said we may need to go back and hear the ruling or discussion before, but it says that it's recommended or it's an optimal decision to have the council member on there, or is it legally required to have a council member on there?
The way the bylaws read, it's a recommendation, not a
Right, just like
mandatory
if
requirement.
they want a chamber member or they want a police officer.
It is not a may.
So really, even if Councilman Timberley wasn't already on there, Karen could stay on there. It would just be our choice whether or not to vote somebody off or a council member on, correct?
You do have that authority, that's correct.
Right. But we don't need to do that in this case because Timberley is already on the board. Right. She represents the council, so we don't need to vote someone off and bring someone on, correct?
Well, she wasn't appointed as a council member. I mean, if her council
Right,
term were
doesn't have
to
to be.
expire, she would be in the same boat that Karen is in now, that she was, being appointed for a term and not being appointed while you're on council, if that's what happened.
I understand, but it's not required that we appoint or elect a council member to be on there, therefore we don't have to vote somebody off, it's just our choice. Is that
Correct, that's correct.
And neither one of those terms are up.
Right.
That's right, and leave it as is.
That's, yes, you could.
So is that, Councilman Moore? You have no motion. Okay. Withdrawn the motion.
I make a motion that we
Councilman,
leave the present members of the EDC as they are right now.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Abstain? Abstain? We have 4 for, 1 abstain. The next is consider and take any action necessary regarding appointment of Kimberly Usselton? Sorry about that. Usselton to the Van Alstyne Community Development Corporation Board of Directors. Is there any discussion regarding this? We'll start at the other end. Councilman Cooper. Councilman Jessica?
I think she'll make a very good addition.
Councilman Blake?
I agree with Councilman.
Okay. Then at this time, is there a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to accept Kimberly Usselton's application to the CDC board.
Thank you. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Number 17.
Before we move on, can I ask a question?
Yes.
This would be for Kanita or for the secretary member? Jennifer, has the previous member that we put on our board been notified that he's on the board? Has that occurred with that before? Okay, good. That's all.
Okay. Number 17. Number 17, consider and take any action necessary regarding council's desire to appoint a member to serve the remainder of the City of Van Alstyne Small City Representative term on the Sherman-Denison MPO Organization Board. This is this is not the MPO board, because I'm the one that serves on the MPO board. But this is for the MPO Technical Advisory Committee appointment. And the person that the council has placed on this is Karen Tarver. Got it. I would like to bring it to your attention that I did talk to Carl, who is the director of the Sherman-Denison MPO, and he says the appointees are more often city engineers, public works directors, or planners, not council. So she's not on there as a council person, but as a representative of Van Alstyne, as I am on the MPO board as a representative of the small cities in the county of Van Alstyne. We have another Van Alstyne person who serves on that board, and that is Bill Benton. However, he is there to represent the county, not the city. She can continue to serve on this board if it's at council's wishes. There are only two meetings left for this board, and at that time, Van Alstyne is automatically removed from the board, and it goes to the next small city, which would be Al. So she has. They will meet in July and September. So the seat rotates their seat rotates in November. Mine will be in October. So this is an automatic thing. So if you decide to put a new member on there for only 2 meetings, they automatically will go off anyway. So you have your choice of leaving Ms. Tarver on there for the remainder of the period of time, or a new person. So, and I have spoke with Karen, and she is desirous to continue for 2 more meetings. So at this time, is there any discussion, Councilman Blake?
Yeah. Number one, Karen, could you at the next council meeting, if we, keep you in this position, come forward and tell us what you do, what consists of, and then I said also, when she has a meeting, would you be willing to come before the council at the next council meeting and tell everything that went on that you can remember? So we would sort of know what's going on and know how this works. Could you explain it to us right here in just about 2 minutes? What it's for?
2 minutes.
Yeah, it's what the meetings are for.
Yeah, okay.
Not particularly what you decide for what's for.
The transportation, it's a transportation issue, and it deals with federal regulations. Right now, it's MAP 21. Money is scarce, so not much is going to be done, but right now there are meetings being held with the public to see what our requirements are, as far as roads and transportation needs. We're dealing with safety, and that's the main thing that our group has picked on as safety. There are 5 different items, and the environmental things are not that important, but we are working on things like if we should ever get money, then what would we do? Where would we put the emphasis? So it's, and I brought up the thing, well, if we're talking about safety and they're talking about accidents, well then all the big towns are going to get it. They said no, because it's proportionate to the what the traffic is, how much flow there is. So we're looking at all these things, but we do have a survey going out. One of the things I pointed out was, well, we have several Hispanics. Have you translated any of this into Spanish? And they said, well, no, but they will. So we're doing that, and we're trying to get the communities, all of Grayson County, together to find out what the needs are, our transportation needs are, and how we can address them.
Okay.
2 minutes, right?
And all of these are in the results of all these meetings are public, and they're in the Herald Democrat quite frequently. Councilman, do you have any questions?
Do y'all do this for any other cities?
Currently, we do not. We have, in our previous city lives, we have acted with Collin County. I was on the Richardson board, and then with the Collin County, the old non-resident.
And they would represent the county.
But
Well,
if-
he
if
he
we-
was on, he was on record.
County.
He's
Yeah.
he's saying he was on record.
Yeah, but he couldn't only be for 2 months because we
Right.
lose our
Right,
representation.
and I was essentially asking that question since that said it was normally on to see, you know, if the plan pretty well is up. It's something that they've done, that they do.
Not
We
for
don't
us.
want-
We lose our Van Alstyne representation because to Al. Al will represent, we only have 2 more months, 2 meetings, which is July and September, and then it goes to Al. This is something that you get a small city representative from a different town, and when your term's up, then it automatically goes to another town.
Denison and Sherman is represented, of course,
All the
TxDOT is always there, and then we have one small city.
And the county judge is also there. It's just the 5 of us. That's on the MPO. The technical advisory committee is a little different.
Right, and we did hire a firm that is doing the surveys and getting the word out to the public to find out what, it's like we're talking about, you know, getting everyone together to come up with the best ideas, and that's what this thing is all about, the surveys that are going out.
Okay. What's that next one? Any questions? Okay, is there a motion at this time for any action necessary for this, or let it stay for the 2 months?
I make a motion, we continue like we are with Karen Brown.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passed. Consider and take any action necessary regarding passage of an ordinance adopting the water conservation plan. This is number 19.
Mayor Ray Bob Johnson, and Madison Johnson, and Jerry Furbridge, welcome Steve White to address this.
Okay. And I will turn this meeting over to this time.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and members of the community. We basically are here to discuss adopting an ordinance to adopt a plan, a conservation plan. And a conservation plan is required by TCQ for all people that supply water to people for drinking. And one of the reasons that they do that is a long time ago, there was a focus on we're wasting water. And there are a lot of people that are using more water than they need, and then they're having to develop their resources. That was implemented by a statewide task force that was implemented to adopt the procedures and the idea that we needed a conservation plan for each water supplier. each water provider. You go ahead. Back when you had the water committee formed, many of you that were participating in that probably saw this form. Van Alstyne is approaching their limit on their ability to provide water to its citizens. If you look at what the capacity is of the wells that Van Alstyne gets their water from, we're right at and getting very near that capacity. We're within 5% of being at a point where Steve can't pump enough water to meet the demands of all of our citizens. So there's two options there. You can go find more water, or you can conserve. And adopting a conservation plan is a good option. It's a very good option because, go ahead. The goal of a conservation plan and adoption by the city is not to go out and write tickets. The goal is to get people educated, help them understand, and to get them to voluntarily participate by reducing the amount of water that they use. If you look at what people that know about horticulture will tell you, that lawns don't need to be watered every day. And if you take the average sprinkler system that gets installed, the person that installs the sprinkler system wants people to value it, so they'll usually set it to water more than is really needed in order for the grass to come up and look really green, so they say, wow, this sprinkler system's doing great. So one of the things we do with the conservation ordinance is we try to limit the amount of watering. And if you talk to people that study those kinds of things, what they'll tell you is the lawn doesn't need to be watered that often. So what these are just a number of the provisions that are included. The Greater Texoma Utility Authority has been very helpful in working with all of the small cities that it works with to try to help them out and develop things. So what they've done is they've drafted a model conservation plan that they've made available for all cities to adopt, so that they don't have to write their own. And it's a very good plan. I've looked through it. It does comply, and it is consistent with state requirements. And so if Van Alstyne adopts that plan, they will be in compliance with the state requirements for a conservation plan. Some of the key provisions: it does require that you limit watering to 2 days a week, outdoor watering or irrigation system watering. It does not prohibit hand watering. If you need to hand water plants or vegetables or whatever it is you're watering, that is allowed with a handheld soaker hose or some kind of a faucet hose. It also allows a soaker hose, say, for example, around the foundation of your home. If you want to make sure that the soil doesn't dry out around your home, that is legal and does not fall under the guidelines of the conservation ordinance. They are asking that right now, with the stage that we're in, that you limit watering to no more than 1 day per week in the winter. And that's from November to March, and you year-round prohibit watering from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The ordinance says during the summer, but I would recommend that you go that year-round. There's never a time where a lawn needs watering more than twice a week, or it needs to be watered during the middle of the day. The other provisions are a number of other provisions that are included, and basically what they are is you're not allowed to waste water. Somebody goes out and waters their lawn until water runs down the street. You've all seen that. That street's not going to grow, and it's not going to turn green. And so it's basically common sense. It's telling people that they're not allowed to waste water. It has restrictions in it, like you're not allowed to wash a car unless you have a hose that has a controller on it, so that you can turn the hose off while you're wiping the car down or whatever. Those are, and I'm not going to go through all those, but those are a number of provisions that are including in there that are designed to help people avoid wasting water. The next slide. It does prohibit overseeding lawns during the winter with cool season grasses, ryegrass as an example, except for athletic fields and for golf courses. They want people to be able to still play football on green grass and still play golf, hopefully, on green grass, if the course desires to do that. So they are exempt from that requirement. It does require that all irrigation systems be inspected to make sure that they're in compliance and that they're operating appropriately when a backflow preventer is installed. And what that backflow preventer is to avoid water coming back into the water system if there's a contamination. All of those new systems, which have to be installed with a rain sensor, a freeze sensor, and that's to avoid watering when it's raining and makes the system shut off, or to avoid having water running when it's freezing, so that you don't put ice on the roads. And so It does talk too about the car wash I was talking about, and also one of the provisions that talks about restaurants not serving water unless asked. Some of these provisions are a little different than others as far as your viewpoints, but that is one of the provisions that are included in there. I'm not going to go into detail in a lot of the other, there's a lot of other provisions that are not required, but they're recommended. Things like developing a landscape ordinance. But the conservation plan that you would be adopting, you have a copy, I believe, in your packet. It's a rather lengthy document. And it does have the number of provisions, and all of those provisions are consistent with the state requirements for a conservation plan. With that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
So there's a provision, first page, section 4 for the penalty.
Yes, sir?
And a misdemeanor which you can be fined $2,000, that's a class B misdemeanor. And those end up in the county courts of law. Do we have the latitude to make the penalty a class C misdemeanor instead, especially for residents? Maybe not the larger businesses, the industrial businesses, but for residents, maybe class C misdemeanor with a maximum fine of $500, and then that would stay in the municipal court, and the city would get that fine rather than most of it going to the county.
I'd want to defer that to somewhat of a legal opinion. I can tell you my own experience, but I can't speak for the law.
That the maximum penalty is really up to the city council. Most municipal ordinances do have a maximum $500 that you're speaking of. The local government code specifically authorizes an increase in that $500 to be up to $2,000 if it is a subject matter that affects the public health, safety, and welfare, which water availability would qualify as a public health and safety issue. But you can make it $500 if you prefer. The $2,000 is not required, it's just allowed.
Have you seen cities that have made it class C misdemeanor for residents and a class B misdemeanor for industrial users?
I have not personally seen it, but that doesn't mean there aren't cities around the state that have done something like that.
I have some background in this. I developed the conservation program for Dallas when it was first implemented. And Dallas imposed, the first time was a warning. And then the second fine was up to $500. And I think we had a capacity to go higher, but it was typically only for repeat offenders or severe abuses. And so it was basically a judgment call. And they could make the fine up to, but I don't think it said anything about it's a minimum of that.
And I think in here it says that each one offenses, and that's granted fine. So even if you made it class C, the person can be fined $500 for this week's misuse and $500 again for next week's misuse.
An example of that tiered system that you see is actually there are administrative fees versus criminal penalties where cities, and I know McKinney does this, if you're caught violating, there's a civil fee added to your water bill, and then you have the right to appeal that if you say, I wasn't running my sprinkler. But those cities normally don't add that fee to your water bill unless they go out and they have usually it's a reporting, the neighbor calls and says so-and-so sprinklers are on, and the city goes and takes the picture with the digital camera and the date and time and documents it, and they add it to the water bill, and then each time that happens to you, the amount of fee that they add gets increased. So that is something that some cities do where it's not even a municipal court or JP court issue.
That's okay. So we could do that to make a civil penalty.
find
That was
people
the first
and go out and catch them.
We started looking at this.
There's 25 reports in here that need to be filled out every year and sent in. Who's gonna do that all?
I have to fill out all this you see right here, and it's the first question they ask. Do you have a conservation plan? No, we do not.
Yeah, right.
And so we're in violation of TCQ regulations as of now.
Okay.
The reason for this is I'm in a position where I had 3 wells down, and luckily nobody was, people were not watering. So I was running off of 2 wells. And I need some type of provision where I can take care of the water that I have just for domestic use.
Yeah, I understand, but I just, do we have to hire another person to maintain all the reports?
We won't be looking unless somebody complains.
Announce that.
And looking at this enforcement and how do we follow up enforcement actions, so we're not going out and looking at this. It's going to, I'd ask Bob about this, how they do it in Dallas. And even in Dallas, when they first started up, it had to be something where you had to have somebody complain. We had to have somebody available to go look at the complaint and take photographs, document the action. And it had to be occurring in real time when the complaint came in. So,
As I said earlier, the objective of this is not to raise money for the city's coffers. I mean, the objective of this is to call attention to it, to get people to pay attention, to get people to be prudent, and to use water when they need it and not just waste it and take it for granted. Because whether we all agree or not, and I know that's a big discussion about rates, but water sometimes is too cheap. And it's too cheap for people to worry too much about wasting it because it doesn't affect them hard enough or whatever. So the goal is to get, and you'll notice that if you read through the plan, when they talk about telling people that you can only water 2 days a week, it also requires you to try to educate them that you really don't even need to water that much. That you really could water less and that would still be okay. So it's really, the goal is to get people to pay attention, to comply, and to participate voluntarily.
And we'd have to do it anyway. Right? As far as the plan goes, we'd have to do it. How tightly we enforce it, how we put that together is our problem.
Exactly.
Well, and just so you know, I mean, there may not be specific patrolling occurring to look for violators, but if an officer sees an ordinance being violated, they can't just, whether it's this or any other ordinance, they're not supposed to just keep on going and wait for a neighbor to call and complain. They would need to write the ticket. So, I mean, it may be that perhaps you all should hear alternative ways of enforcing for making
when I read through this,
decision.
It said a lot of things about that you needed to get your plan determined, then send it to the GTUA. They would look at it and see whether or not that was a good one that you should use. Then you should bring it back, and then you should pass it with their recommendations, and then you should go forward. But we're sort of skipping all those steps, right?
Well, actually, we're not being enforced by TCUA right now. Have a plan for them.
Okay.
TCQ is forcing us to have one.
Okay.
It's talking about complaints. I had one called in 2 weeks ago where they said there was water leak on Georgetown. Actually, after following a block and a half, it was a sprinkler system. It was feeding all the way back in the concrete.
Okay.
But I mean, I have to be able to keep fire supply and want domestic water, and this is the only way I can do it.
I believe, Paul, did you
I
have
have
a
one
question?
question. You mentioned when you started that we were operating within 5% of the capacity. Does that include the pipeline, or is that just the well water?
No, that's just the well water, the supply.
What happens? What are we doing with the pipeline?
The pipeline, when it is connected and it is scheduled to be done, the council has approved that project to go forward. And when that's completed, there will be additional water supply.
But then we fall under GUTA's conservation plan no matter what.
Do we not have to write one then because we have to follow their rules?
Now, that's the reason we're pretty much following what they got.
Okay.
Hey, Billy,
At that,
to
Yes.
answer Billy's comment there, this plan will comply, once we tap into the CGMA line and get the surface water from North Texas, the GTUA plan is compliant with the North Texas plan. So Van Alstyne will automatically be in compliance in that.
I don't see anything in this plan that talks about keeping only water once every 2 weeks, which is what.
Well, they're in
They're
stage
what
4.
plan they're on.
You're at, because you're on separate well, you're at a stage 2 and not a stage 3 like they are. Once we tap into the CGMA line, then you would have to go to stage 3.
Yeah.
And then you are for once every 2 week water.
So then you'll have plenty of water. 'cause we won't
it's
get water.
actually somewhat confusing. If you look at TCQ regulations, this is a conservation plan. What you're referring to as far as being able to water once every 2 weeks is a drought management plan. And once we connect to the CGMA water line and start taking water ultimately from North Texas, it's actually coming through McKinney at this point, but it's still North Texas water. Then Van Alstyne will have to comply with the provisions of their drought management plan, which are those restrictions that you're referring to.
Okay. Are there any more questions from council? Councilman? Do you have any questions? Councilman Moore, do you have anything? Councilman Clay, do you have any more questions?
Probably not.
Thank you. So it's consider and take any action necessary regarding adoption of a water conservation ordinance. Thank you, Bob. If there are no more questions, is there a motion at this time?
I would move that we adopt the ordinance with the following amendment to section 4.
Okay, and that is the penalty.
Yes, and I think that should be, any person, firm, corporation, or entity violating this ordinance as it exists or may be amended shall be deemed guilty of misdemeanor, and upon conviction of residential users, may be fined, shall be guilty of a Class C misdemeanor and may be fined, or may be fined a sum not exceeding $500. Other users shall be fined a sum not exceeding $2,000. So I'm just.
So you're talking about the industrial?
Yes,
Yeah.
or anything, anyone
500
other than.
residential.
Residential, 500.
We have a motion. With one change, and we have a second. Is there any further discussion?
Where is that? Section 4 that you're talking about? I see a
It's right-
4.1.
It's section 4 penalty on page 1 of 3 of your ordinance.
103.
Good.
It doesn't have a number, but there is an ordinance.
Number at the
under-
bottom of the page?
Yes, page 1 of 3 is where section 4 starts. First page on the ordinance adopting a water conservation plan.
Just passed.
Billy, I think you just passed. Keep going. No, you passed it. Sure.
Forward?
Keep going back.
It's the second page behind the cover sheet.
Go ahead, keep going. There. Down at the bottom. Doesn't it say section 4? Penalty? And then on the next page is where the change will be. Because it presently reads the $2,000. And his proposal was 500.
500 at a Class C?
Yes. And for the others, it would be a Class B.
Can you put anything in there about the first time they get a warning or something like that?
First time warnings.
I think that's always within the discretion of someone who can cite somebody.
Mayor, may I make a comment as part of the discussion?
Yes.
Particularly regarding the effective date. I don't know if you would want to have a period of education or awareness so that the citizens know what is happening, perhaps learning lessons from the previous water rate ordinance
With the water
that was
bills,
passed.
the water bill goes up.
Just to make
Just
them
an
aware
idea.
that there has been an ordinance, and you cannot send the entire ordinance, but it would be available at City Hall, and just an outline of, about what it would cover. Is that what you're?
That sheet of rules.
What the watering rules are. You could do a one-page summary of what the watering restrictions are. I'm not sure. The model plan maybe could be tailored to make it clearer who can water on what days. I have cities where if your address is an even number, you get Tuesdays. If you're an odd number, you get Thursday. So how do you know if someone's only watering once a week?
Even if you do even number houses, you get even number days, odd number houses get odd number days.
Yeah, I mean, if there's not more of a regulation, if someone's sprinklers are just running on a Saturday, how do you know that's not the only day in the whole month that they've watered? They need to have a day so that you know if it's not their day, then it's illegal watering.
So your suggestion is that that be added to this ordinance?
Well, to the plan that's attached to the ordinance.
It says the ordinance shall become effective from and after its adoption and publications as required by law. That's the effective date.
Is there language in there regarding the signage that notify the citizen on what stage that you are on, so that the public knows?
No, I don't know.
Create our own effective.
My suggestion would be is that we need to, I see other cities, if we're on a stage 2 or 3, the citizens need to know, so there needs to be some type of language in there notifying the citizen of what stage we are, because it's going to be hard for an officer to, the officer's going to know, the citizens need to know what stage we're on. Either signage needs to be put out, or some kind of notification.
Well, it isn't just that. There needs to be something that tells you at each stage what it is too.
There needs to be some sort of management plan.
Yes, and we don't have one here.
So do we need a delayed effective date and all that?
Actually, we might need to read that to approve. Do we need to read that?
The whole reason we brought this to y'all is because we're about to get a big water ban, and we've got more homes online, we're about to be in a bind. So delaying this is not a good idea. An educational period is good, but it needs to happen pretty quick.
I just want to remind you of one thing. What
Have to know.
she's talking about is right, but there needs to be a way to tell people we're going into stage 3 or whatever. But this plan, as it's established and set up, is designed to be in effect all the time. Not when you're in a crisis, it's designed to be in effect all the time so that you can use water wisely year-round all the time, even if it's raining every day. And that's what the conservation plan is designed for. The drought management plan, which is a different plan altogether, is where you get into the lakes are dry, we need to conserve even more. Therefore, we're going to restrict, like right now, most cities are under 2 days a month. And that's what most cities are allowed to water right now that are under restrictions in this area. And so that's a different scenario or issue, and I would encourage that this be considered just as it is, which is we want people to take hold of and conserve water all the time and use only what they need, not just waste it because it's not a big enough impact.
And we can bring back the drought management plan that we brought back as we tie into the CGMA or before then, because that becomes our restricting agent on how often we can water. Right now, this year is to basically, let's start training the citizens of Van Alstyne to understand what water management is, and then once we get into those restrictions in the next year or so, once we make that connection to the water line, we're able to implement it, and everybody understands what it is.
Essentially, we don't, city staff can't go and force something
without a plan that the public is knowledgeable about, hey, I can only water on Mondays, or, this is a good plan, but I've also noticed, like Allen and all those cities that are hooked up to that line, they have a map they send out to every citizen. This is, you can water your lawn on Tuesdays, and they get a map. This section, this is when you can do it. And it matches the ordinance. So they didn't make a plan that they put into an ordinance. Their plan matches the ordinance, but gives the citizens the information on how to match the ordinance.
But we don't have that.
Right, we'll need the plan.
We need the plan to go with this before we can pass this, but we still need.
We'll need the plan before they can enforce. So
Yes.
As far as the plan is concerned, that can be articulated in many different ways. We can put the document itself on the city website with a PDF, and we can link it. He can burst it out by Twitter. We can communicate with Rodney through the paper. The mayor can put it in her newsletter and have the basic elements with the link as to where you go to read the entire document. But the main thing is to get out. As far as us being in peak demand, you can't have people watering between 10 and 6. That's what we need to get out. And those are the basic elements. As far as having a map, there isn't anything in relation to that. That's more of the drought contingency plan that Lynn's talking about. And that's when we get into the odd number days, we get into only this section of town can do it on this day, and only odd numbers, and all that different stuff. And we're talking about, this is the base layer. And this being the base layer, we just need people to not do it during peak demand when they're doing all the other stuff we talked about, washing their hair, doing their laundry, cooking food. We need the lawn watering to be while the supply is being replenished by our wells at night. So this is the base, the starting ground, and we have ways that we can get the word out. That needs, most of this needs to happen. Now, we're not going out and sending people out, sending public works guys or Tim's guys out to enforce. The main thing is to educate. Please be conscious of what you're doing. That's the main thing we're trying to do, and that's what we really need. We really need.
But it does not specifically state that in this ordinance.
How does it not specifically state?
That even days, odd days, do not water during this
No, ma'am.
specific
I'm talking
time.
we're talking about passing the ordinance. I'm talking about linking the document, which is the water conservation plan under Exhibit A, and linking that to PDF on the city website. So that way we can get all that information out. Rodney can have a link.
So when we pass the ordinance, we pass all of it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Not just the ordinance.
Mayor, according to this conservation plan, requires me to actually educate the citizens. We plan on bringing in groups that are free of charge to come in and set up little areas for them to come and sit. That'll be like Bob was talking about. They'll talk about water, they'll talk about suburban. We'll set it up. But it requires me to do so. For me to get any type of money, I have to have a conservation plan, and I have to have conservation education.
Steve, we should have had this in place by May 1st, according to what I read, correct? So
That is
we've got to
correct.
get it passed.
I'm
now.
behind my time.
Right, so the education process needs to happen pretty quickly, correct?
And that part would be handled by the Department of Public Works.
Got it. Okay.
So I can get TCQ. What I plan on doing is there's educational brochures I put on the back of a newsletter and send them out with the water bills and stuff. I can also bring in rules.
Is there any other discussion from council? Okay, I believe we already have a motion to adopt this with 2 changes. And that was the changes for the residential and for the others.
I know it's irregular. I just want to know, has everybody read this ordinance? Are you voting for something like Obamacare that's vote for it and read it later?
I've read every bit of it.
Okay, this ordinance, you have seen this ordinance prior to tonight.
Yes.
Yes.
That's all
It's been- Our packets are delivered on Friday.
Are you passing right now like on page 7.7-2, page 7-2, in section 7.4, number 1, the first bullet point says limit landscape watering with irrigation systems at each address to no more than 2 days per week. That is in there.
That's where a plan comes
Yeah.
together to be able to enforce.
Okay, we would be passing that if we pass this ordinance. Okay. Are there any other questions or discussion regarding this from council? At this time, we have a motion already on the floor. You seconded it. So we have a motion that has been made and seconded to adopt this with the change under penalties. Is there any further discussion from council? Then at this time, we will vote. Those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. The next item on the agenda is number 20, consider and take any action necessary regarding passage of an ordinance amending ordinance number 674 as it relates to regulations for cross connection control and backflow prevention. This is number 20. And the staff recommends this.
So state law requires us to monitor all backflows in the city. What we've done in the past is actually asked the company, presented it to the city council back last year for tracking solutions to monitor and check all the backflows and then send the paperwork out. The system is, the backflow needs to be required to be checked. TCEQ took a while to approve this process. And so what we got approved from TCEQ to allow this company to monitor our backflows. I don't have the time to go out and check all the backflows to make sure that they can check, nor do I have the credentials. These people actually do. And what they do is send out a letter once they've done verification of all the backflows. These backflows have to be tested once a year. Anything that is a hazard to the water system must be protected by a backflow. So they'll actually handle the paperwork, administrative fees, and then pay the city back. And Jennifer's been working with me, so she may need to chip in every now and then. But we are required by TCQ to have this ordinance. We're about a year behind on it now because we had to get TCQ on board with us.
Yeah, they require the backflow. We keep the backflow inspection reports, I think for a minimum of 3 years on record. And the company that we included in the budget to go to work with, they are going to, I guess, I don't know the word, they're going to take an inventory of the backflow devices that are in the town commercially, and then they will keep track of when the inspection becomes due and notify the business owner or the property owner that this inspection is due. You need to get, backflow inspector in to test, check your device.
Are we just talking commercial?
Commercials every year.
Okay.
Yeah, and the ordinance.
Residential every year.
Yeah.
So now we're going to start every 3 years on residential?
Well, that was already included in
the original
674.
One-time thing, and then you never.
Well, the state law supersedes any cross-contamination action. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. Must be inspected. If it's an RBZ, which is on residential, it's got to be inspected when it's installed and 3 years later. Anything that deals with health hazards, such as commercial kitchens, car washes, funeral homes, anything that the contamination actually come back on into the water system must be checked once a year. So we're just following what TCQ requires.
This is really just modifying 674 to allow for the reporting to be done electronically rather than carrying the paperwork into us. They'll submit their test results and reports electronically to this company, and they will keep the reports for us. So when TCEQ asks for them, we can just log on
So the mayor
and
in
pull the
the
reports.
newsletter needs to be sure and remind everybody that if you have a sprinkler system, you're going to be getting a request to have it done like we did before.
Right, and it should be done every 3 years.
So you're going to have to pay $35 and an inspection, or?
I don't know if these are, when TCEQ comes in and does water inspection, I have to present this material to them.
The spec in 2011 or 12, the city failed the TCEQ inspection for the reporting requirements.
Right.
And ordinance 674 was adopted to get the inspection frequencies in place that match what the state law requires. And that ordinance was done in 2012. The amendment being proposed tonight is really just changes how it can be reported, so it can be reported electronically. The amendment is not changing how often the inspection has to occur.
So the 3-year inspection won't happen until, do we know?
Depending
We
upon.
did them, most people in town did them at the same time. So
All we're going to be doing with this company is doing a commercial. Now, once to a point, TCEQ comes in and says, yes, you've got to show proof of residential. Yes, then we have to. But the law already states that it has to be every 3 years. Any backflow has to be checked.
But residential is further down the road, right? And as it says here, they will send notice. It says here, where devices are currently located as well, they will send notices to property owners.
Well, depending on what type of backflow, the irrigation system is basically installed in the residential area. If they use a double check valve, that is considered a low hazard. So they have to be inspected upon and tested upon installation. After that, low hazard is kind of, they're on the back shelf. They haven't implemented every 3 years yet, but we must keep the report for 3 years. The high hazard, the RPZs, and the other pressure reducing, PRVs and all that, they have to be tested every single year because those are considered high hazard.
So a double check valve, you don't?
You're not required you got to keep the paperwork for 3 years, but there's not a requirement to retest after 3 years. At this point.
Yeah.
They're talking about it eventually, but they haven't tested it.
But this company will know when that occurs and
They'll know.
notify us.
All we're asking for is this company be able to electronically monitor backflows, so I don't have to go in there.
And their contract, the contractor has already been approved.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other questions regarding these?
This isn't changing any requirements whatsoever, it's just changing who you pay.
No, where it's changed in section 8A, number 3, the current ordinance says a minimum of once a year. The amendment has a semicolon and says residential low hazard devices every 3 years. So it is adding a requirement for the residential to be inspected every 3 years. If that's not the intent, that should be
I'm saying or every 3 years.
taken out.
So it's not in there, so we can pass it out there.
Says compliance for lawn irrigation. Last sentence. A low hazard lawn irrigation system having approved DC or DCEA is required to be tested upon installation, following repairs, or every 3 years. So currently, if it's not required to be done every 3 years, then I guess we could take out the or every 3 years. Or you could it be changed, Julie, where it says or every 3 years if required by the state or something? That way we maintain compliance.
What section is that in? I don't
So if
see
you're looking
that.
at 21, Section 21 on page 19 and 22.
Every 3 years if required by the state.
Or as required,
You want to keep it where it was compliant with the state. This is all about compliance with the state.
That's or.
So,
If we just add, if required by state, then
who's, it's TCEQ, Steve?
Yes.
Or every 3 years if required by TCEQ. If, and you want to keep Julie's if going to work?
Or maybe.
Or may be
Well,
required
it's
every
a-
3 years if TCEQ mandates it or
I read it as it's an or.
Yeah.
Upon installation, following repairs, or every 3 years, not an and, where you have to do all of them.
Okay.
So you would just look, you suggest leaving it as is? Or with the R there?
Yeah, because that only refers to 1 year upon installation or when you do a repair.
Now, the amendment, I'll leave it up to Steve and the engineers on that number 3, if they want that reference to every 3 years added in there or not.
On low hazards, 3 years is the paperwork requirement, it's not a required test at this point.
Testing.
At this point, we've been told it's coming, but it has not been approved yet.
So should we simply leave it there and say if required by state?
Or just leave it as is?
Like you said, well, legal opinion says or means you have an option.
Okay. Are there any other questions regarding this? Councilman Blank? Yes, ma'am. Okay, then is there a motion at this time?
Motion to approve this bill.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. We will go to item 21, consider and take any action necessary regarding authorizing the city manager to sign a non-exclusive distribution agreement with the North Texas Tollway Authority, establishing the Alstyne Public Library as a regional toll tag partner.
Mayor Council Tracy Wisconsin, or head librarian will address this.
The short version is, if I assume you want that, we enter into an agreement with the North Texas Tollway Authority. They provide us with toll tags. And so if someone buys a new vehicle and needs a new toll tag and lives in town and wants to buy a toll tag, they can come to the library, fill out online their form, creating their account, putting in their credit card number, establishing their whole account, print out a receipt, bring it to a staff member. We then have a special login where we go in and pull a tag, assign that number to their account, and actually issue them the tag to put on their vehicle as they leave the building. In exchange for this partnership, once a quarter, any new accounts that are created under our system, the city will receive $5 per tag from the North Texas Tollway Authority to give back to the city. Don't expect a lot of high demand until but the tollway is coming north. If you haven't looked at the plans, it's coming all the way up, ultimately to Denison.
will we get a sign on 75 that says toll tag place up to the right? Everybody else does, it has those.
Only if we want to buy one.
Sometimes the state is really stingy with those signs. Are there any other questions regarding this, Councilman White?
No.
Yes. Okay, if there are no other questions, is there a motion at this time?
contract with the Texas Storm Authority if they put a sign up.
I don't think that's gonna fly.
Oh, okay.
You were doing good till you got down to that last thing.
Okay.
Does that mean you withdraw?
I'll leave that part up.
Okay, is there a second? Yes, second by Jessica. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Number 22, take any action necessary regarding authorizing the chief of police to request and receive a special service vehicle Hummer at no cost as part of the 1033 program. Chief Lawrence.
Mayor, Council, when I attended the Chiefs of Police conference this year, there was a lot of discussion regarding surplus availability out there. And the Chief of Allen and along with the Honey Grove Chief, we're talking about the Hummers that they had received from the surplus program, the 1033, which we're a member of. Basically, during the ice storm, if y'all remember, it was hard to get around. It was hard for us to get around. The SUVs and the Chargers that we had, it made it difficult. Basically, what I'm asking for tonight is have the authorization to ask for a free Hummer. And as you can see, these can be converted. We brought your donations. It wouldn't be a day-to-day vehicle that we would drive. Similar to Allen's, where it would be used for parades and special events, but also in the event that and we've had here where we've had an elderly or a child go missing, since we have a lot of open fields, it's hard to get back in their locations with the current vehicles that we have. So just ask permission to get a free piece of equipment to utilize, and also disasters if we need to be. Have any questions? Please ask.
Does council have any questions of Chief Lawrence?
We need to go for riding?
Sure.
We need to go for riding?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the statement. Okay.
I'm excited about seeing something like this being used in parades and, you know, there's night out, whatever that's called, other things for the kids in the city.
Any further discussion from council? Then is there a motion at this time? Motion authorizing the chief of police?
Yes.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Motion passed. Number 23. Consider and take any action necessary regarding adopting a resolution to establish the City of Van Alstyne, Texas Insurance Trust Fund, authorizing the trust agreement and appointing trustees. I have 23 and 24 together.
Mayor, Council, this is an issue regarding benefits and us paying premiums to the federal government. I have Eric Clark from Wellspring here to answer any questions. The main thing is to establish a trust to pay benefits out of, so we don't continue to pay those premiums.
All right. Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor. Like Frank mentioned, I'm Eric Clark from Wellspring Insurance Agency. And as we were contacted by Frank, there was a recommendation from some neighboring cities, and were interviewed in January of potential cost-saving measures for a benefit program. At the time, we were not the agent of record, but one of my recommendations was to establish a single nonprofit trust. Chapter 222 of the Insurance Code, here, life, accident, health insured are subject to gross premiums tax under Chapter 222. However, there are certain exclusions from that gross taxable premium. So part of the city's current insurance premium, 1.75% is taxed. Because you are a political subdivision, you can establish a single nonprofit trust and essentially remove those taxes without making any material changes to the plan. This has been around, since I know of, 2006, I believe, maybe even a little before 2004, but I don't have that right in front of me. But during our conversation with Frank, that was something easy to set up, and although the plan's not a new one, Blue Cross Blue Shield, as your current medical provider, will enter into an agreement of statement of understanding. And after the plan renews, go back and look at any premiums that have been paid out of that trust and reimburse the city directly for that. We represent a lot of cities and municipalities. We have established this trust. We have paid out of our pocket, and our attorneys built the trust, and we're able to pass that along at cost to the cities to adopt. And once you purchase that trust and set up that trust, it's yours for the remainder, as long as you want to keep that in place. We provided Frank with that trust template and instructions on how to execute it. One of the key steps to execute that trust is to pass a resolution.
Is there any other questions from council at this time? Councilman Jensen. Thank you very much for your presentation. All right. Okay. In your packet, you have a resolution establishing a single nonprofit trust agreement. At this time, is there a motion concerning this?
23 minutes. Pass the resolution.
Okay, first we will pass the resolution.
Motion as for trustees.
If you decide to do this, then you would do this with the motion, including your motion that we would appoint trustees, the council would appoint trustees. Is there a motion at this time?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution regarding this issue, that we appoint the city manager, Frank Baker, and our city clerk, Jennifer Wool, as trustees for the trust.
Can I make a recommendation to the council to appoint the trustees by title, not name?
Okay, yes, sorry, those are back up. The city manager and the city clerk as trustees of the trust.
And throughout the resolution and the trust agreement, it says city of template.
It's only a template, that's
So
why.
that would be
that's why
changed.
We haven't seen it
Okay,
yet. The
gotcha.
main thing is to make sure that the council gets it informed.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
I asked the city manager.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passed. The next item we have is 24. Consider and take any action necessary regarding authorizing the city manager to execute a trust agreement for the city of Van Alstyne Insurance Trust Fund. Are there any questions regarding this? If not, is there a motion at this time?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we execute the trust, or have the city manager execute the trust agreement.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passed. Number 25, discussion regarding possible amendments to ordinance 538 and 663, establishing the Village West Plan development to include but not limited to building and construction requirements.
Mayor and Council, this goes back to the comments made in the last council meeting regarding Gordon and their proposed changes, not proposed changes, but the first that they were going to change the way they were doing business in Georgetown, specifically Express Homes, which is one of their lines, one of the brands that they currently do down in Vienna off 1106. I've been asked said I did not believe so. That's how this all came about. Once we had an opportunity, after that seed was planted, I went with Chief Barnes when he went to speak with the representative from D.R. Horton over in Georgetown to agree to let them do training within some of the structures. And I'd asked him, are there any plans to do express homes in Georgetown? He had said, oh yes, we're going to start doing express homes. You're going to love it. We're going to knock them out. It's going to be granite, same granite all the way through, same carpet. It's going to have all the grades. Not going to need to do anything. So, it's going to be a good thing. We're going to really turn them out. Next step was talking to Ty Chapman, our inspector, telling him, hey, I'm hearing a couple of different things. I had a real negative reaction as to express homes when I was asked the question. Now being told from a point representative, fairly low level, that yes, they are doing express homes in Georgetown. What does this mean? Ty directed me to 1106 over in Anna, go take a look at it next to the Anna homes, where you have an apple and orange. And the express homes is their starter home, which is not complementary to the homes that are being produced inside Georgetown currently. Georgetown currently is families in transition, but it's not their starter homes. It's mid-level homes that are in the 1,800 square feet to 2,000, and it's not the price point of express homes either. It's not the same look. It's a lower roof line. It's a smaller home, right around 1,500 square feet. And so the next step was to look at the PD, what's allowed, what was signed off on 10 years ago. And 1,500 square foot homes were the base square footage for the homes in Georgetown in the PD, with a roof slope of 612. And so then I started talking to different builders. I talked to Councilman Moore, being a builder. What are we looking at? What's going on here? And so we looked at PD, we talked about it. It's not complementary to what's already out there, because most of them are 812 and 912 roofs, and they're larger homes. They're smaller. Some of the smaller homes, we're talking to different people, was 1,800, was really kind of the baseline. 1,500 being way outside the scope, being not complementary, and not being something that was going to enhance what's being built in Georgetown. After that, we started working on contacting Horton, the guy out of the trailer that does all the construction, pointing back towards David Booth. David Booth is the DFW guy that's over land acquisition and development. David said he'd get me in touch with somebody. A lot of back and forth, and then there was just kind of the well with her. I wasn't hearing a whole lot. Started getting closer and closer to the meeting. Started putting together the agenda, and the next step was to go back and look at the PD. The PD was an agreed on document years ago, but it doesn't. The document and what's been built and what's being built in Georgetown do not fit the frame of the document. So that's where I was bringing this back to y'all was, do we attack the document? Do we hold? Do we make it to where we get into back and forth to Georgetown with Horton, because they still control track 2 that is being built out. Is the HOA is still under the control of Horton and under the umbrella of Horton, although there are some HOA people, some residents that are on the HOA that are in the architectural design portion. So, not a whole lot of communication happened until yesterday, and on Horton's end. And then I got an email back from Horton this morning, or I got a call back from Horton yesterday saying that they were going to discuss it early this morning in a meeting, and that David Booth and then Derek, how do I say it, Ty? Ammerman. I want to get it wrong. Would contact me at this point. So ended up getting an email this morning from David Booth with a follow-up phone call. Short and sweet was, Frank, just left you a voicemail on this as well, in reference to what plans are for Georgetown. I talked to Derek this AM about your conversation with him last night. Derek had called right before I left the office and and said they were going to meet. Derek wanted me to let you know we'll continue to build the Horton series of homes in existing and future phases of Georgetown. Let me know if we can assist with anything in the future. I told him we didn't want to get adversarial with them. That's not our intention. Horton is our premier. As far as tract homes, they're our builder here in town. We have a lot of custom builders, but Horton's the one that's building out Georgetown. We don't want to throw a stick in the bicycle spokes. I want to get some answers, and I wanted to see what our avenues were to make sure that things stay consistent in Georgetown as far as home prices, as far as value, as far as what we're trying to do and what's trying to have built there. So what I'm asking you to do after having a conversation with them now is to go ahead and not make any amendments to the PD. They are going to continue on, but there was some real anxiety there. There's some real fear because we do have this in track 2. We have 65 lots to be built out on the north end. We have less than 40 left in what's already been developed out in Georgetown. And then we have the 130 on the south end that Artisan Development has that Georgetown is interested in purchasing the lots of. So the main issue here was to be able to convey to y'all, or not be able to convey to y'all, we need to be able to hold the purse strings another way through the PD, that we want those to stay consistent. We want to maintain home values. They have agreed that they're going to stay consistent on what they're building out, and they want to remain a partner with Van Alstyne, and they want to come and talk about developing out other parts of town for different homes, starter homes, upper end, the whole line. So the main thing was, were they going to get on board with us and trying to tell us what the truth was. We heard the rumors. What's the truth? The truth is they're going to maintain consistency in Georgetown. We've had hiccups along the way. I believe they've been minor. I believe we've had people that have done a good job of helping us out. As far as when we went to track 2, the setbacks were a little bit different. We've addressed that. We've had some double mailboxes pop up that weren't complementary to both homes. We've addressed that. The double fencing, they needed our help to tell them what they were going to do and how they were going to do it, so that way they knew what the repercussions were if they tried to create a void space in our community. So I believe we're in good shape. My recommendation is to just move on down the road and take no action.
But there have been some express homes.
If you want to look at express homes, they're off 1106, going eastbound off Highway 5.
That is his recommendation. Do you have any questions regarding this, council? Councilman Jackson?
No, I want to express my thanks to Frank for backing something.
Okay. Then at this time, it is the recommendation that no action be taken on this. Do I need
Discussion item. It's a discussion item.
It's just a discussion. Yes, discussion of possible amendments. So there's no action to be taken. I just don't want
Okay.
us to move forward.
Then we have, this is also a discussion item regarding development of an ordinance adopting building permit regulations in the city of Alstyne, extraterritorial jurisdiction. And we have tonight been given a copy of the city of Anna ordinance. And it requires building permits to be issued in subdivisions of the cities. So this is a discussion regarding the development
is already defined. And we want to maintain consistency as far as minimum building standards. It only makes sense to require permits to be pulled so that way inspections can occur. Because the only avenue that home builders have currently is if they pay for a third-party inspection. Ty Chapman was nice enough to come up here this evening and help answer any questions as to the benefits of it, what you want to extend it to. If you want to, if you feel like you'll want to move in this direction, it would be something that we need to work with legal on, need to work with Ty on. You want to hold it to just subdivisions that are coming in the ETJ. You want to hold it to structures, period. So you know, we can kind of have an idea of what's being built and how it's built out in the ETJ, because it is going to be a part of Greater Van Alstyne in the future. That's really the question I'm bringing to you.
Okay, what is, questions the council would have regarding this?
So if we went with something like this, we could have it set up the way it required everybody's home that wants to go home and come through your inspection.
Yes, sir.
What would determine what they could do? Would we have another set of rules that said you have to go this side of the house, or you have to do this, or you have to do
It
this?
just fall under our subdivision ordinances. Is that all right?
It wouldn't be for zoning, it's strictly structural, building codes, electrical codes, plumbing
Okay.
codes. So if they're in the ETJ, they can build whatever size or style of house that they want, but it would have to meet code.
Okay.
And they say you could apply that to commercial, other types of structures as well, if you choose to.
So this is strictly for code violations and regulations.
For building standards.
Somebody want to build a half fiberglass glass house, they can do whatever they want to.
I don't know that the building codes would allow for that, but.
They can't do what they want.
Council, questions or comments? Okay. At this time, after a little discussion regarding this development as an ordinance, I need some direction in this. Is this something you want to address at this time or at a later date?
I make a motion, we present it back to the city manager to set up the ordinance, Van Alstyne to do this, and then bring it back to the city.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, we're not taking any action. It's just-
No action.
What do y'all, what is the feeling of council? Y'all want-
We have a
y'all want to see
motion
something like this?
that an ordinance be brought back
There's no
to.
motion. It's just a feeling. It's just a discussion.
Just a recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. You can say, instead of I move, I recommend.
I recommend turn this back to city manager to work on coming up with an ordinance to be used to, for regulation for this extra jurisdiction.
It's not terrestrial.
It's late. That's the closest I can come right now.
Okay.
Second the recommendation.
Thank you. All of those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Next, we have our department reports. We will start, Jennifer, do you have anything you would like to report?
No, ma'am.
Chief Barnes?
No.
Chief Smith?
How am I talking about it?
Then we have a city manager's report.
Mayor and Council, again, we're having the 4th of July fireworks. Working with the school district to have up the high school again this year. Fireworks will occur sometime after 9 o'clock, after dark, after pitch dark. And other than that, you all received a letter meeting at the Anna Middle School on State Highway 5, Tuesday, July 15th, 2014. Open houses from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. I'll give this to you, Robbie. And it's regarding the widening, reconstruction and widening of State Highway 5 from SH 121, not FM 121 here in town, but State Highway 121 down on the McKinney-Wilson order to County Line Road, which is right here at 375. And so that way, y'all is known to y'all. Mayor has a copy of this as well, so she can include it in her newsletter. I'll give you right, just get the word out. The date on this is Tuesday, July 15th, 2014. The open house is from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m.
Do they have a proposed date when they're gonna do the construction?
No, sir.
They're gonna do it at the same time as they're doing 75?
I certainly hope not.
Probably.
That would be,
That's logical planning.
that'd be terrible. That's it, ma'am.
It's going to be a long newsletter. I'm going to make notes on top of notes. Do we have any closing statements from council? We'll start with Council.
I have a closing question, if I can. We'll see.
We'll
I get
see.
in trouble, so I'm not sure.
We'll
This
see,
document-
Billy.
The document that we received, is the check register, I don't really ever look at it. If I need to see one, I would probably go to the, request one or something like that.
Well, we have
I don't know if those other ones on the council feel that way too, and may not want to receive it all the time, or?
Jennifer posted online for
Okay.
part of the goal that we wanted transparency.
Yeah.
Our award had to do with posting the check register online.
Okay.
It's online if you don't want it.
You can just quit sending mine.
I enjoy receiving it because I can go through it, and I appreciate taking your time. Do you have any comments? Probably. Okay. We want to thank everyone for your endurance of staying, and we do appreciate your time and your concern with the city, and we thank you very much. So at this time, is there a motion that we adjourn? I have a motion, is there a second? I have a second. All of those in favor that we adjourn, please raise your hand. Billy? It is unanimous. We are adjourned at 9:50.
Isn't bad.
What was it I was supposed to put in there? Text on? But,